Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Also, today with us, we have a distinguished guest, grumpy old man, author Greg Prato, author of Dynasty, the oral history of the New York Islanders in 1972 to 1984. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How's it going over there?
For me, it's going great. You know, it's funny, Greg. I don't know. You mentioned that you listen to the podcast. I don't know if you were. On Wednesday, I was saying goodbye to a gentleman who was going over to Iraq, so I ran a little bit late. And TJ had Tommy Baffy, Lou Lamoriello's trash man, on the show. And for 1 hour, I was late for an hour. Well, it was an hour for me, an hour and a half for TJ. And they had already sold the franchise, disbanded the National Hockey League. I mean, so I got to make sure I'm here all the time. I cannot skip the beginning of these shows.
Oh, man. Yes, Grumpy. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Greg, the book he's got there regarding the Dynasty era. Oh, man. What much better times for the Islanders than we're currently in. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Islanders offseason as well. We'll talk a little bit about Nazem Kadri, a little bit about what we expect here as well, what that contract looks like. Man, oh, man.
What about also talking a little bit about rock and roll, too?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. I will be
there you go. Good.
I will be completely out of my depth in that area. So I will be along.
Because I write primarily about sports and sports and also rock are my two specialties as far as books and also articles go.
Right.
You will be able to see, by the way, all before Grumpy takes it, you'll be able to see just general housekeeping items. You'll be able to see all of Greg's, number one, the book we're going to be talking about today, that Dynasty era. You're going to be able to see that linked in the description below. So you'll be able to see that. If you hit expand on it, Grumpy says he can never find the extra notes we have. Just click expand. That's how you'll be able to find, number one, the book we're talking about today from Greg, as well as all of Greg's other work. So you'll be able to find all of that. As Grumpy Old Man said, he loves the book. Sorry, Grump, I'll let you continue.
Yeah. And everyone is, here's the thing. Greg not only knows how to read, he can write as well. So this automatically just aces TJ out of any conversation we're going to have today, right? Let's be honest.
It does.
So,
and also I'm a lifelong Islanders fan as well.
Well, let's touch on that, Greg. So
okay.
When did you become, because I definitely want to talk about the book because everyone knows who's listened since TJ mentioned you were going to be a guest. I've been gushing about the book because I mean, for me, it's phenomenal. I love it. I'm going to ask you about your writing style. I'm going to ask you about all that stuff. But first, I want to know when did you first become an Islanders fan?
I happened to follow my dad next door in May 1980. He was going to my next door neighbors to watch the Islanders Flyers Stanley Cup, and that was the famous Nystrom goal. So that was the first game I ever saw. I was about 8 years old at that point. And I was still too young to really get into sports at that point. But the next Islanders game I saw on TV was the famous Tonelli goal against the Penguins with that fantastic comeback. And it was 1982. So from that point on, then I was totally hooked. And I watched every single Islanders game. And I went to that year's Stanley Cup parade, which was on Hempstead Turnpike. And I've been a huge Islanders fan ever since. And I'm a Mets, Jets, and Islanders fan. So that's a very, very painful trio right there.
It is. And as I've said before, it's usually Mets, Jets, Islanders, and the Nets. And then, then the hoity-toity teams, the Yankees, the Giants, the Rangers, and the Knicks. But
I do actually, as long as the Yankees are not playing the Mets, I also root for the Yankees because a lot of my friends are huge Yankees fans. So
see, there you go. In my house, TJ's a Mets fan. My other son is a Yankees fan. So I had to be a fan of both teams. And I've always been a fan of both teams. I don't really hate either one of them. But it's nice to know that you did jump on the Islander bandwagon when they won Stanley Cups and were in the middle of that run. So you didn't go through the pain, even though you've been in a lot of pain ever since being an Islander fan. I totally understand. Now, how many, like I said, I did some research on you. Nothing like going through the governmental files or anything like that. But
first time, by the way, Grumpy has ever done research on anything or any guest. That's how you know Greg's held in high regard.
Is there a reason why you're talking?
Grumpy, what are you doing? Is it like a stand-up routine? You're doing that thing you start speaking real quick. Hey man, don't worry, Grumpy, I'm here.
How many books have you written, Greg?
I've honestly lost count. I'm not saying that because I'm bragging. It's just I know it's over 30 at this point. I write for websites, but I also do books. Like some of the websites I write for, I've written for Rolling Stone, Billboard, Guitar World, Vintage Guitar, Song Facts, Brave Words, bunch of places. But yeah, books. I started doing books maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I just like it because I'm pretty much fully in control. I don't really have like an editor looking over my shoulder or anything like that. And I also get to do topics that I really like a lot because, for instance, when I was doing this book, I finished this book and I tried shopping it around, and not one single publisher was even remotely interested. So I was able to put this out totally on my own, and I'm very glad I did because this is probably my top-selling sports book, I would say. And what it is, it's a oral history, which means, I'll show you. You take a topic such as playoffs 80, and then there's going to be quotes from all people I interviewed, like here's Ken Morrow, Bob Lorimer, Al Arbor, Dwayne Sutter, and they're all talking about memories of the playoffs. So they talk about the Bruins series, the Sabres, and of course the Flyers, and we go covers from 72 through 1984. So
yes.
That's what it does.
Yeah, and like I said, I love that style, particularly when it comes to sports. And did you find was it difficult for these older players and front office people? When you reached out to them, were they very gung ho about doing this project with you?
Well, something that people have asked me a lot: how come certain players were not included in the book?
Don't worry, I was getting there.
Okay. Yeah, because just so everyone knows, I reached out to every single player you could possibly think of, and for whatever reason, some players said no. But I got great interviews with Al Arbor. I believe that was maybe his last interview ever. Bill Torrey, Clark Gillies, Bob Nystrom, Chico Resch. I could actually take a look at. I know I'm forgetting some people, but I interviewed about maybe 25, 30 people for this book.
JP Parise.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, it was fantastic. It was, and here's the thing: for anyone who really wants to know about the early history of the Islanders, it's not like Greg is, all right, I'm going to put my spin on it. He talked to the actual people, and the questions that you posed, and I don't know if you posed in the questions or if one thing led to another, but it was right out of their mouths, so to speak. And for me, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed that book. And if you're an Islanders fan, pick it up. Absolutely. And I did not realize that that was done 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder now if, you see the recent passing of Clark Gillies and Mike Bossy, if maybe you just kind of revisited, particularly with Gillies and the interviews you did with him, if you had some type of feelings anyway, when you knew this podcast was coming up when we could talk about it.
One thing that kept going through my mind, which made me very sad upon hearing that Clark Gillies passed away, was something he says in the book, is that at the time I did this book, it was unsure of where the Islanders were going to start playing, because there was some talk they were going to move away, where they were going to be playing. And he said something, it was a quote, that he doesn't know where the Islanders will wind up. When they hoist the next Stanley Cup up in the air, you're probably going to see him cry. And that made me very sad, knowing that he just recently passed away and he's never going to get that opportunity. And then it made it really frustrating, thinking how close the Islanders came last year, or actually 2 years ago, to making the Stanley Cup. And if they did, Bossy and also Gillies would have been able to see it. But now, sadly, it's just too late.
Yeah. Now, like I said, sports is not all you write about.
That's true.
I mean, because like I said, I went on Amazon. Like I said, it wasn't an investigative resource that you're checking, but I'm like, gosh, look at all these books, and you have a really great love of music also. I'm like, it's fantastic. And I just did a little bit of brief reading back on that, and I'm like, it's the same style where you're just talking with people. How do you just approach them? You just ask them a question, just let them go on, or how much editing is involved with what you were, whenever you do a story?
There is definitely a lot of editing. You know what it is? Usually at the beginning of these projects, when I'm doing the interviews, I have a set list of questions that I've printed out or I'm looking at. But about midway through, I pretty much can throw the piece of paper away, and I'm just kind of like, I have it memorized, and I kind of just let the person kind of lead where we're going. Because also about midway through, I know what topics I have a lot of I have a lot of stuff about. So I'm trying now to maybe get some questions about some other topics that I'm not really too sure about, or that we don't really have that much about. But yeah, as far as music, this is the recent one I put out called Iconic Guitar Gear.
TJ, do you know who's on the cover of that?
Hold on a sec, Grumpy. Let me stop sharing what I am so I can actually see this here.
Do you know who that is on the cover?
Shit, I couldn't tell you.
He's dead also.
Could be a lot of different rock and roll stars.
You know what, TJ? I'm gonna give you a hint. He used to play the guitar by tapping.
He doesn't know. Forget it.
Nah.
Greg, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about this on the show, but I listen to the radio once a week. It's on.
I know that.
Here's the thing. I've told TJ this before, but since he has no recollection of anything I tell him, he's one of the guys who kind of changed the way guitar was played when he came in. Back in, I want to say 1977 or 78.
It was 1978 that his band's first album came out.
Okay, I remember that album. I still have the actual vinyl of that album, by the way. And you see the 4 pictures of the guys on the back. Well, fantastic. Any idea? I'll tell you what. One of the members of the band was David Lee Roth. Do you know the name of the band?
Hell.
TJ, I'm gonna sing the melody of like one of their big hits. It goes do 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 do.
Jump, everybody jump.
Ah, okay. All right, but now do you know which band does Jump?
I don't know who sings that song.
Okay, that's Eddie Van Halen.
Okay.
I just can't imagine the comments coming in now, but yeah, Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen.
And then also, Grumpy, I know you're a big fan of also the band Led Zeppelin.
There we go. John Bonham on the cover.
Yep, 30 Rock drummers, remember the legendary John Bonham. That came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I looked, and I wanted to go out and buy all your books, Greg, but I didn't want you to start, making too much money, put you in another tax bracket. So,
right.
Oh man.
But like I said, for me, who were the most entertaining Islanders or that you spoke with in regards to this book?
One of the most interesting interviews was Claire Arbor, which was Al Arbor's wife, because when I called Al, she actually answered, and I interviewed Al. Then after I was done, I was like, wait a second. I don't think anyone's ever interviewed Claire before. So I called back and I explained who I was, and she was totally all for it. So she gave a really great interview. She told a really good story about after the Islanders upset the Rangers back in 1975. Her and also Al just going back to Long Island and just sitting, and they were completely speechless. They couldn't even fathom what happened. She said she just remembers sitting dead silent. I guess it was very, very late at night at that point, just wherever they lived on Long Island, they couldn't even speak because they couldn't believe the Islanders actually pulled off that huge upset. And
so anybody who caught you off guard or surprised you in any way, shape, or form?
A really good interview, because with these books, I try to interview all the people that you'd expect, but I try to get either like one celebrity interview or someone that you wouldn't expect. And I knew that Gary Delabate, a.k.a. Baba Booey from the Howard Stern show, was a huge Islanders fan.
Yeah. Howard Stern, Baba Booey. Yeah.
I'm sorry. You got something right. Okay.
I'm more of an O&A guy, but that's fine.
Right. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, would you want to be interviewed for the book? And he said, sure. So he had some very interesting things to say. When Nystrom scored the winning goal in 1980, he was working at a gas station, and he had a really cheap piece of crap TV that he was watching, and he said he refused to go out and check or pump any gas.
And people are honking their horns for him to get out there and pump that gas. TJ, that was back in the day when you actually had someone come out and service you and fill up the gas tank of your car, not like doing it yourself anymore.
I've heard of those times, Grumpy.
Okay. And was there anyone who kind of disappointed you in any way, shape, or form?
No, everyone was pretty good. Who was a really good interview? Billy Harris.
Yes. Didn't I tell you that, TJ?
Grumpy This is how I was gathering the information of what so I wouldn't be too far out of my depth. He did say he loved Billy Harris's interviews.
That's what I want you to tell the story. But as soon as I started reading, I'm like, you know what? Really pleasantly surprised with listening to Billy Harris.
He was very, very honest. He had great stories about the first Islanders season, just how that team was just a complete mess from pretty much top to bottom. But he was very honest. He said honest things about like Billy Smith and people like that. He was. I don't think he really got along too well with Billy Smith.
Yeah, I don't think the Islanders considered much of a loss when they traded him. But I mean, I absolutely. He seemed very, very honest, and happy with the skin that he lives in. Wasn't putting on any airs. Now, okay, I know you reached out to Potvin. What was the reason why he gave you that he was not going to do the book?
That I didn't get a reason, because it was actually Jean Potvin who was kind enough to be interviewed for the book, who sadly also just passed away.
Yes.
He reached out to Dennis for me, and because it's been like 10 years ago, I forget the precise reason why, or the exact reason why. But yeah, he just said that he just said he forwarded the message to Dennis, and I didn't hear back. And I probably reached back out to Jean and said, hey, did you hear back from your brother? And he said, no, I haven't. So
yeah,
so
I would love
he was, I think, he was doing play-by-play for the Florida Panthers, I think, at the time. So
yep.
I probably also reached out to the Florida Panthers, and that led to, I guess, nowhere. And then I just had to give up.
Yeah, like I said, and I loved Jean Potvin.
Mm-hmm. He was also good too.
Yeah,
he had some very good things to say.
And I guess the ones I particularly like, you mentioned Claire Arbor and Jimmy Delvano.
I was going to say Jimmy Delvano is excellent.
I mean, people that most people in Islander history don't think about, particularly just regular everyday fans. They think, Bobby Nystrom and, Trotz and,
right.
All that, the main guys. But the other guys, and even Ron Vasky.
Yeah.
I mean, I love their perspective because it's not something you've ever heard before. And that's the thing about this book is you're not just getting the perspective of the guys on the ice. You're getting the perspective of the front office staff and the trainers. I mean, just it's totally different. And like I said, thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyable. Get it on Amazon without a doubt. Now, I'm not buying it because Greg was dumb enough to give me a PDF copy. So, I have it. So I'm not going to spring for it because I got it. I mean,
well, Grumpy, isn't it the paper that people like? They like to be able to read with the paper feel to it, huh?
I do like the paper feel. I do like the physical copy, but I can make it really, really big on the screen. So the words are like really big and I can read them like from this distance, which is kind of cool. And I go through the pages faster too. I'm like, oh, look at that. Look at how many pages I've read today. And, because the print is so big. So
I was going to say too, this book sells very well around Christmas time, because my theory is I think people buy it and they probably give their loved ones actual Islanders tickets and they put it inside the book and give them tickets to a game with also the book. That's just my theory.
See, so we're going to be in a time period around Christmas time to where Islanders tickets are going to be so cheap, and they're going to be at a point to where you're going to say, what do we need to do on top of it? Because, hey, when we get there, the Shack burgers are going to bleed us dry there. The beers, the Shack burgers. You're going to need to remind that special someone about the good times of the Islanders, and a book like this is a good book to package up with that.
I like how Greg is marketing a 10-year-old book on this show today, and it's brilliant. That's definitely the way to do it. If you think about it, yes, get yourself a couple Islander tickets, get the book. I mean, look at the price. I mean, that's a steal at that price, honestly. I mean, it's such a fantastic, fantastic read for any Islander fan, particularly the younger fans. But for older fans such as myself, just going back in the Wayback Machine, I just love it. But it's seriously, it's a must read for any Islander fan, and honestly, hockey fans.
Thank you.
Even if you're a Ranger fan, I mean, they talk about the Rangers, they talk about certain players. I mean, I don't know if you just kind of came up with questions you want to ask, or just free form, or just kind of guide them in a direction. I don't know exactly what you did. If you could maybe just touch on that a little bit, because however you did it, it was fantastic.
Well, something I was just skimming through the book before I signed on, and I forgot Stan Fischler went as far as saying the Islanders-Rangers rivalry was the greatest rivalry ever in sports back in the early 80s. And the more I think about it, I think he's absolutely right. I mean, you really have no concept what it was like. It was just such an intense. I know it is still intense, but it was so intense in the early 80s. You can't even describe what it was like at that point. And Grumpy, I'm going to ask you something. Back in the early 80s, on Long Island, was there a single Ranger fan?
Yes, there were.
There were. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because
let me think of his name. John Amato. A guy named John Amato was a Ranger fan, because I mean, me and some of my other friends, Andy Abate, we wind up watching. We're watching the playoff game, all the time, regular season, but playoffs. Everyone gathered like in one house watching the playoff games, and all I remember was this guy, John Amato, diehard Ranger fan. So, we're throwing crap at him the whole game. Nice guy, but we're throwing shit at him the whole game. And, of course, the Islanders won. So it just made it more. But really, there's Long Island. The Islanders are a Long Island team. I think you get to a certain spot in Long Island, and from there on out, it's Long Island team. My dad always felt that the Islanders should have moved out to this, further out on the island, not so close to the city.
I think so too. They should move out to like Suffolk County or something.
Yes.
But the reason why I just brought up the whole Rangers thing is I remember just going to school at the time in the early 80s when the Islanders were winning all the Stanley Cups. There were in the schools I went to, there were absolutely no Ranger fans until like later in the 80s when I became friends with Ranger fans. Now on Long Island, it's almost like 50-50 because of 1994 and everything. So my theory is, before I croak, hopefully the Islanders win one more Stanley Cup. And I would like to see if it kind of shifts with if suddenly there's a lot more Islander fans on Long Island than there are Ranger fans.
Here's the thing. Winning does that for certain.
Yeah.
Do you have another 10 years to survive a rebuild, Greg? That's the big thing.
It doesn't take 10 years to rebuild. Don't get me started on that.
We'll jump it in later, Grump.
Yeah. But, you're 100% right. It's like, and it's funny because street hockey was big out on the island back then. I mean, they didn't have the amount of rinks that they have today. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everyone was Islanders fans. And I think that's because it's honestly because of the work ethic of the Islander team. It was really, and still is to this day, a blue collar team, I always felt. And most of the people who lived out on Long Island were blue collar people also.
Well, it's also the thing. It's also because the Rangers were so bad for so long and didn't win a Stanley Cup since 1940. So like if you put that in there, then who's going to root for a team that's been bad for so long as well when you have a young team that's now suddenly a dynasty?
And I just thought that people could identify with the Islanders, not just because they were winning, because the media coverage is nothing like it is today. Absolutely nothing. And I don't feel that the Islanders team gets the recognition that they deserve. And
I was about to say that
there's a chapter towards the end of the book where Greg asked that question, if the Islanders are the greatest team of all time. And
Al Arbor was like Bill Belichick back then. But yet when they talk about dynasties and great teams and great coaches, you'll never hear about Al Arbor, which is very sad.
No. Scotty Bowman won more titles, but to me, Scotty Bowman, it was a one way or the highway type thing. He ran the same thing where Al Arbor was able to adjust some of the things he did and with his dealings with players, which I found very interesting. The reverence that the players had for Al Arbor. It's
I'll just show you some quick. I have a thing hung up on my. I don't know if you can make that out. It's a outtake of Islanders Stanley Cup thing, but it was, I guess they were taking some kind of photo for either a yearbook or something, but it's an outtake. You can see that some of the players don't even have skates on. You see that?
Yep.
Yeah, so that was
nobody was wearing those Nike skates back then, the white Nike skates. That's for certain.
Right.
And TJ, I don't know if you realize this or not, that the Islanders invented the playoff beards.
Yes, I remember you told me about that. You've talked about that before on the show.
Well, I don't know. Usually, you don't pay attention to anything I say.
Some things stick. It's like it's like you're drinking through a fire hose. Sometimes some you gather, others just whoosh, all over the place.
Okay. Now, TJ, do you have any specific questions for Greg? Because then I want to touch on some of the other things he writes to, but anything in particular about the Islanders?
No, nothing specific about the book.
Okay, sure. Next. All right, Greg. So let's get into the other things you write about. I know, big into music, right?
Yes.
I mean, do all your books have the same writing style? Because I didn't look at all of them. I'll be honest. Truth. Do they all have? Do you have the same writing style, which is like an interview format, or are there other type of things also?
I would say most of them I do follow that format, just because I personally like getting the story straight from the quote unquote horse's mouth. I mean, if I wasn't there, who cares what I have to say? Some of my books, I'll have a little intro sentence or paragraph. But then we just go right to the quotes, because before I was even a writer, I always liked reading straight ahead Q&As and Rolling Stone and things like that. So that's what I really enjoy the most. You're getting the story straight from people that were there, cutting out all the bullshit. That's what I like the most. But I have done some books where there is a narrative, such as far as rock music goes, I'm a huge fan of the band Soundgarden, and I put out a book about Soundgarden called Dark, Black, and Blue a few years back. And that has a whole narrative, and I even kind of worked my own experiences because I've been to a lot of shows of theirs, and I became friendly with the band, so I kind of worked that in there. But the majority of the books, like for instance, I did this book a while back about the band Kiss. Take It Off Kiss, Truly Unmasked. And this is it's a bit of a blend of oral history and also narrative type stuff. So that's that.
What is your personal okay, you have to be, if you're going to write about a certain subject, you have to be a fan of the subject, particularly in the writing style that you do, right? Would that be fair to say?
I mean, I don't think you really necessarily have to be a fan, because like I've done a lot of interviews and articles in the past on people that I'm not really that big a fan of. But I mean, you know, the thing is, I think you'll do a better job with a book if you're a fan of the topic and you find it interesting and you can kind of relate to it. You know, that's right. Kind of
I guess it's something you enjoy. You're not going to say, okay,
exactly.
Okay, let's see. I'm really not a fan of the, World War II, but let me write a book about World War II. So I'm not necessarily a fan, but something you're interested in. Was there any particular person or that maybe you had a greater appreciation for after, writing the book, or kind of surprised you with the information that you got, positive and negative?
This is for music and also sports, you mean?
Yeah, either anything.
When the band Stone Temple Pilots first came out, I wasn't that big a fan of theirs because I thought they were too much a ripoff of Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and also those bands. But from their second or third album on, I thought they became very good songwriters. And shortly after Scott Weiland died, about maybe 5 years ago, someone got in contact with me because they were a big fan of a book I did earlier about the singer Shannon Hoon from the band Blind Melon, who I was a big fan of. And he said, you should really consider doing a book about Scott Weiland in the same style you did the book about Shannon Hoon. And the more I thought about it, I thought that was a good idea. So I then quickly put out a book. It came out just like a few months after he passed away, and it was because it was still a current event kind of thing. So by doing that book, I really did kind of build a whole new appreciation of Scott Weiland's talents, through speaking with people and listening to his music and everything. So so that's probably a decent example of something like that happening.
And anyone where you went and said, gosh, man, this guy's a dick. Anything like that?
That was about to be the question I was about to ask when you.
And here's the thing: you can say that if it's me after the podcast, I'm totally cool with that. But except for me and TJ, anyone else?
I would say the weirdest interview I ever did was William Shatner.
Okay.
He was the weirdest interview because besides listening to music that I like, I also like listening to music that's very odd and weird. So Grumpy, you're probably familiar with when William Shatner does Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of that. So I did an interview with him about 10 years ago for the magazine called Record Collector, which is a British publication. And he just put out some kind of music CD at that point. And the interview was supposed to be about his music. So I asked him some questions about the music, but he wanted to talk about his latest book. And there was like a miscommunication. And I did get the interview off, but it wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. And he, after about 15 minutes, was just like, yeah, I have to go. And then that was it. So that was kind of disappointing.
I thought William Shatner is an actor.
Okay.
He is an actor, and he's also done some very strange music.
Yes. TJ, do you know who William Shatner is?
Okay, only because I just looked him up. But yes, it's the guy from Star Trek.
He is, yeah.
Do you know the character he played?
Like I knew who that was beforehand.
Do you know the character he played?
Oh,
don't look at it now. Don't look
he didn't play Spock. He played the other one. The other one who was
Han Solo.
The Braun. No, not Han Solo. That's Star Wars.
LeBron?
No. The guy who was the guy who was like the counter. Where it was like he was more the guy with logic and reason. Was Spock, and the other guy was more like Braun, and he was more like instincts and gut. I don't know whoever that character was. That's who he was.
Captain James Tiberius Kirk.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The only Star Trek one I saw was that movie that they recreated off of it, and I kind of was like, meh. So let's
just very quickly, and then I think we should probably go to the comments because I'm curious to hear what people have to say. But
absolutely.
Just quickly, some of the other sports books I've done. This one you'll definitely enjoy. Butt Fumbles.
Oh God,
you read that? Okay.
Butt Fumbles, Fake Spikes, Mud Bowls, and
Heidi Games.
And Heidi Games. Oh man,
the top 100 debacles of the New York Jets. And also, besides a writer, I'm also a cover model. That's my rear end in that picture right there.
Impressive.
Oh,
impressive, right?
Work it out. Now, let's say, was it tough for you to cut it down to 100?
Let's just say that I wish I held off doing this book for another year or so because of what happened last night, and also, So I think we're gonna have to get to that in a little bit. But
yes, I was going to just throw in there. Zach Wilson out 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah,
with a
well, it could have been definitely a lot
injury.
worse, though. It could have been a lot worse.
Bone
this
bruise.
happened today. This happened
bone
today.
bruise and torn meniscus.
Yes.
Oh, that
and
happened.
I'll just show you. I also did a book about the Yankees. It's about the 1980s Yankees, which I interviewed a bunch. I interviewed Phil Niekro and Goose Gossage for that. There's a book about the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s Mets, which were an awful, awful era. That's when the Mets put together the team that would become the World Series team. And this book is a good one too. Sack Exchange.
TJ, do you know the members of the New York Sack Exchange?
New York Jets.
I couldn't tell you who they were, but I know you had mentioned them.
Marty Lyons, Abdul Salam, Joe Klecko, and Mark Gastineau.
Oh man,
The New York Sack Exchange.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. The New York Sack Exchange. Because we're gonna jump into comments here in a second. But Greg, I want to ask you a little bit about what you think about this offseason for the New York Islanders. We've talked, and again, everybody bring on a show. We kind of want to understand what their thought process is. Do you think the window's still open? You know, do you think an addition of a guy like Nazem Kadri puts us over the top? You know, we've heard ideas that maybe we're going to be we have a much more grandiose plan. We've got a lot more moving and shaking to do. Just kind of want your opinions on this offseason. We haven't made any moves official yet, but underwhelming, overwhelming. What are you thinking here, Greg?
Well, the thing is, we don't even know if Kadri was signed, right?
We don't know, but it looks like everything's pointing to that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
heard, the latest thing I heard was that there's an offer on the table. Correct. And that he is agreed in principle. I think he's still looking at other teams, hoping someone will give him something similar. I heard that yesterday. Now, let me ask you a question, Greg. Mm-hmm. I am interested in your Kadri information that TJ said. Let's say you were writing a book on today's Islanders. Do you think Lou Lamoriello would grant you a conversational interview?
No, I don't think so. I think he's like a Bill Belichick type, that he's very secretive. No way he wouldn't do that. I mean, you know, the thing is, I always think back to the first year that Rex Ryan came with the Jets, where it was a surprise and the Jets came out of nowhere and were really good for 2 years. So I'm always holding out hope with the Jets and Islanders. With the Islanders, you know, back with COVID and the year after COVID, they were a surprise. So I'm always hopeful that, you know, at some point, all these weird trades and everything will finally come together and, you know, it'll be a pleasant surprise. But the Jets have just been a complete horror show for the past, 10, 15 years?
Actually, I would say, I was going to go back to 1969, but, you know, hey.
Yeah, I here's the thing. I'm optimistic on the Jets turning things around, looking a little bit more competent this year. I will say Mekhi Becton being out for the year, that does hurt, Grump. But when we're talking Islanders, you know, everything has been quiet. It's funny. I guess I'll jump away a little bit from what you think about the offseason. Grump and I were talking about this last show, and we were I've been thinking about this a little bit off air, but you know, everything could change obviously with, you know, the breeze of the wind. But I wanted to ask a little bit about what you think about Lou Lamoriello's legacy when leaving the Islanders. Now, this is, again, like if he wins a cup, obviously I think it's rosy and it's fantastic. If he doesn't win a cup, and this is where Grumpy and I didn't necessarily see eye to eye, if he doesn't win a cup, how will his legacy be remembered? He's a guy who definitely did bring legitimacy back to this organization and franchise, which is a huge need. But, you know, you're also going to be remembered for that Devon Taves trade. You're going to be remembered for those time periods of gutting the farm system and leaving, you know, the prospect pool completely vacant. And, you know, in a desolate wasteland where you're going to have a rebuild in some capacity. But I wanted to get your take. If we don't win a cup, what does a legacy look like? Because I think we can all agree if the Islanders win a cup, the legacy is an A.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that he's, how many cups did he win with the Devils? 3 or 2? Yeah, so I mean, so I think his whole legacy is pretty solidified. And he also won,
I mean,
didn't he win 2? What's that?
I mean, just with the Islanders. So how does his
the Islanders? Well,
the Islanders?
Yeah, well, he won the best GM for twice. Did he win it with the Islanders?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that right there, you know. But hopefully, if the Islanders suck this year, I really hope ownership realizes that it's time for a huge change. You got to get rid of Lou and you got to bring in new people, because how much longer are you going to try this and it just keeps, floundering?
Yeah, and again, like I think Grump and I have talked about it. We don't really think those general manager of the awards hold much water. I know that maybe in the community it does, but I think that if he goes out, right, he doesn't win himself a cup. I think he'll always be remembered for somebody who did bring legitimacy back to the team and the organization. But in the same token, I look at the aftermath that he's going to leave behind. I think it's going to sour the taste in some fans' mouths. Grumpy doesn't think so. No. I do, Grump. This
season, I think, is really going to tell a lot, because if this season, if they are suddenly great again, then definitely all is, forgiven. If suddenly Romanov is great and everyone, and everything comes together and everything gels, and Barzal and also Barzal is great again. But if it's another bad year, then I think his legacy would be tainted. But it's still, I think, Hall of Fame worthy with those 3 cups and the 2 GM awards. So.
Oh, yeah, for what he did before the Islanders. I mean, the guy's definitely one of those first ballot Hall of Fame general managers. But, yeah, I just always wonder what Islander fans will think about his tenure on the island. If it's just going to be enough to say we made it to 2 Eastern Conference Finals, and that's given us a little bit of light in what has been a dreary time period. Grump, I know you want to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, my perspective is, remember where the Islanders came, where they were for decades before he got there, okay? He comes in, he and Barry Trotz, and I think we can see now it was mostly Barry Trotz.
For certain, it was all Barry Trotz.
I'll say mostly, because he had to get hired, and people are going to remember. Okay, we didn't win anything, but we did get to the semifinals before we lost to the eventual champions. And that's what people are going to remember. And even if it goes back to being the dark times again, they'll have that, particularly the younger fans will have that little glimmer of those couple of years. So I think he'll be looked at fondly regardless. Now, if they totally go in the cellar and he starts chasing and he's not moved on by Ledecky and Malkin, then you could run into an issue. Whereas if this is his last year, which I think it should be, honestly, either way, and as long as they don't bring Fredo in as a GM, I think that from my perspective, he's going to be looked at fondly by New York Islander fans.
See, it's just one of those where I just can't see it. They'll remember, right, the 2 Eastern Conference Finals. And I think the 2 things that Lou Lamoriello has done is a fantastic job here as general manager for us. Again, brought stability back, signing Barry Trotz as head coach was huge, and bringing Sorokin over. Those are really the 3 things I think that will always have a positive look and a view and an outlook on his tenure here as a general manager. But I'm looking at the negatives and the misses. They're starting to add up, unfortunately. And depending how this Kadri contract looks, if he does sign with the Islanders, I think that has a chance to be a real negative long-term thorn in a foot. And I don't know what else is going to happen, right? If he has other moves to bring in a guy like a JT Miller to help round out, a winger on the first line, I think maybe, it could change the outlook, because I think it makes us more competitive for the now. But, man, I just look at those Devon Toews trades. I look at the firing of a guy like Barry Trotz. We were calling for that. But, is the guy like Lane Lambert, is he going to help win a cup? Is he going to be a guy, first-time head coach, that's going to be, out of his depths, or is he going to go ahead and walk in and win a cup? So, I mean, there's a lot of question marks behind it. But
also, it's going to depend how long Kadri gets. If it's just a few years, fine. But if they give him a ridiculously long contract, then that's going to probably sink the team.
Rumor is 7 by 7. 7 years, $7 million per. And I'm just like, so again, we don't know anything that the rumors, anything that Lou puts out there is always close to the vest. So I try to take it with a grain of salt.
You realize that most Islander fans are not smart. They don't listen to this show. They listen to the, whatever the media cartel, just bap, 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 yes, whatever you say, so they go whatever was, whatever they say. Where, the discerning Islander fan maybe will view him a little bit differently, but the regular plebeians, the ones not intelligent enough to listen to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man with Greg Prato on tonight, they probably won't look at it the same way that we do.
Yeah.
How old is also Kadri? Is he 30 or something? Or
32.
All right, so if he signs for 7 years, he'll be here till almost he's 40.
Yes.
Yeah.
That definitely makes a lot of sense.
It scares me. It scares me a lot. I don't think any fan who's, I think most fans agree that it's good in the short term, but long term, it's going to be a hideous contract. So that's why I was wondering, what does the legacy look like? Because we're going for broke, right? We're going all for it, all in right now. And, Grumpy and I don't agree how long a rebuild would take of that magnitude, but that's fine. There will be a rebuild that would occur.
Let me actually ask you something, TJ. What if the Islanders win a Stanley Cup this year and then suck for the next 10 years afterwards?
That's fine. I'm fine with that. I just
hate to say it. I think I probably 100% agree with you with that.
I was about to say, like, if they win a cup, right, you always go through time periods where teams have to rebuild. If you win the cup, that's what it's all about. I wouldn't mind at all a time period of, a destitute Islanders team if it resulted in one cup, because what we've known is just consistent rebuild upon rebuild for the last two plus decades. And, what I worry is the window has shut, and now we're throwing more assets for the future after what is a closed window, and it's just going to be all for naught. So, where the team is, I think this year tells a lot about it. This is one of those years we look at, one of the franchise altering year. I think this has the chance to be one of those.
Here's the way I look at it. You talk about the window being closed. It reminds you, remember the movie Wizard of Oz? Like where you got, the farm hands are like boarding up the windows. That's where we are right now. The Stanley Cup is the hurricane, is the tornado, and we are boarded up inside a building before we just get swept away.
Oh man, it's not great, Grump. It's not great. But let's jump into some. Unless, Grumpy, you have more questions for Greg about the book, or
I don't want to get too far into. We can touch on that as we go as well. But I want to hear what the people have to say while it's still fresh.
I was going to say when the book's still fresh on mind. Absolutely. Scott saying, "Hey, what's up, Greg? Greg P or George P. I'm sorry, saying another on time TJ event." Yes, I know, running a little tardy. Hey, yo, what's up? Says Brian J. Raz H saying hello. Scott L saying, since Kadri is still talking to other teams, do you think this lessens the chance of the Islanders signing him? And if he does sign with another team, Lou's only move would be Romanoff. Sleeping Beauty Lou needs to go. I think the no move from Kadri probably is best for us, so I wouldn't be opposed to it. But it does mean it's another very underwhelming offseason for Lou Lamoriello, I think.
For me, the fact that he hasn't signed here means he's still looking around. If he had signed, you wouldn't hear rumors of Calgary still, or potentially maybe going back to the Avalanche. You wouldn't hear that.
But the only thing is, remember last offseason, Parisi, no one knew if he signed or not, and then suddenly they finally said, "Yeah, he signed." By the way, so who knows with what the hell Lou's doing?
Yeah, Parisi had no value around the league, though. None.
I think we got him on a sweetheart deal. I still love that deal he's got. I like the deal he signed now. A guy like Kadri, I can tell you, is going to be a deal that all Islander fans are going to detest. Do you see any team dumb enough to go ahead and throw maybe 7 years, $7 million per at Nazem Kadri? I see one.
7 years,
that would be us. So, and I'm sure he's got a no trade clause in there in some capacity for a long time period. So, I don't see any team at this point of free agency saying, "Ooh, who has the cap space realistically?" A rebuilding team, but why would a rebuilding team want to sign Kadri? Why would Kadri want to go to a rebuilding team? We're the only team that's, I think, a fringe playoff contender that's fringe Stanley Cup contender. That, again, I say fringe and I use that very loosely, but fringe Stanley Cup contender that maybe he's interested in, and vice versa.
I'm happy living in the past today. Talking about
I know, Grumpy. Brian J saying that God Grump is back. He speaks the truth. DJ can't handle it. Yeah, that's true, Brian. And Tony Cheese saying this guy is already better than Phil's facts. He doesn't broadcast from an empty room painted in eggshell white. Brett W says here, I read Greg's book on the Kiss drummer, Eric Carr. Great stuff.
Thank you, Brett.
And David K says here, who's the other guy, Greg? This should be for some exciting color. And he says, plus, I think Grump likes him. Tony Cheese says, I haven't seen Grump this excited since, well, I don't think I've ever seen him this excited. and JG says here, I smell a bromance brewing, Grumpy. He's just noting the obvious. It seems like TJ is just here to run the board. Yeah, that was that. Yes, for all the Dynasty era items, I'm just here to run the board. Apex Legends says here, if you trade Croc, aka Brock Nelson, for an elite winger to help out.
Okay, first of all, read it exactly as it's written.
Oh, man.
Don't add anything.
If you trade Croc Nelson for an elite winger to help Barzal, the Kadri signing works well. What do you think about that?
It works better. Not well, because he's too old, too long, too much money for too long a period of time. Maybe for a year or two.
Also, how long have the Islanders been trying to get a winger for Barzal? About 3 or 4 years now, and they haven't done it?
Well, they switched from getting a winger for Tavares to getting a winger for Barzal. So you're talking about, I don't know, 12, 13 years now.
Yeah. It's a never-ending hamster wheel that we've been on. And I worry. We've posed this question. I can't imagine Matt Barzal is happy with the talent that's put alongside him. Who knows? You know,
something else I want to ask too. Is it just me, or the Islanders have not had a good power play since 1984?
Actually, I think in '93 their power play was pretty good as well.
All right, yeah, okay. So since 1993, their power play has sucked, right?
It's the talent. It's a lack of talent. It's what it is.
You think it's that simple, yeah?
They've had how many coaches they run in and out to run the power play? It's always the same. It's talent, just is. Now, TJ, is it true that Barry Trotz is no longer on Matt Barzal's Christmas card list? Is that true?
I would probably say the Trotz family and is not sending Matt Barzal any Christmas cards. Here's the thing. I don't think Matt Barzal sends out Christmas cards. He's a single young man. I don't anticipate him sending out Christmas cards.
Okay.
Do you think Matt Barzal sends out Christmas cards?
Why not?
That doesn't seem like a young single man thing to do. I didn't send out Christmas cards.
It's because you can't write your name in a card.
Well, that's also the case too. But I'm like,
okay, why don't you tell people how you would sign cards to your mother, father, grandmother? Why don't you tell them how you?
A zoop.
No,
from TJ.
From TJ. Blah blah blah. That's
TJ.
how. I mean,
that's correct.
I mean, it's like, dude, do you not? We know who TJ is. You don't have to give us your last name and from. I mean,
Grumpy.
Oh, wait a second, Grumpy. I have a special request for you. Can tonight be the night that you show a picture of yourself when you were younger?
Oh my God, I think I have one here.
No, go pull up an actual picture, Grumpy. As we're siphoning through, just put yourself on the little anonymous little thing so we can't see you. Go find yourself an old picture of yesteryear.
Okay, I'm not digging. I have something on my phone.
If you don't text it to me, send it to me via an email so I can pull it up. Are you able to do that, Grumpy?
I can text it to you, right?
No. Oh, you know, honestly, if you text it, I will do the legwork. Don't worry. Text it to me. Just send it to me like that. We got a comment here from Brendan C saying, is the life of a Mets, Jets, Islander fan even worth living?
No, it's not. It's like a continuous kick to the private parts over and over and over again.
I mean, the Mets at least have had glimmers more so than the Jets and the Islanders as of late. And again, it looks like the Mets things are looking good right now for the New York Mets.
In my lifetime, at least I've been able to witness the Mets winning 86 and the Islanders winning several Stanley Cups. The Jets, I haven't witnessed do really much of anything.
I think Saul is the right coach for them, but man, oh man, I didn't know that. I didn't know. Oh, man, Zach Wilson injured. Oof, not good. Not good. Doug R saying here, I have a weird feeling that Kadri is signing elsewhere. There was some talk that his agent is still talking to other teams. I think it's the best case scenario if he does not sign with the Islanders. I mean, best long-term scenario for us that he does not sign with us, if that's the type of money in term that he's asking for. Jesus, you talk about hamstringing the franchise here. Okay, Grumpy.
What?
Hold on a second. No, you sent me the wrong picture.
Oh, you could post that anywhere. That's a cute picture of the dog.
I asked him to send me a picture of yesterday.
I gotta find it.
And he sends me a picture of Jesus Christ of my brother's dog. That's a good one, Grump. JK says, any updates or any Atu Ratu updates? Thank you. Atu Ratu's looked really good in the tournament, and so has, William DeForest put up points. Again, the skating seems to be the biggest issue for him, but Atu Ratu is looking like he's a guy who's going to make it in the NHL roster. He's got that. I could be a top 6 forward. Look to him.
I'll give the Islanders and Jets credit. The last 1 or 2 drafts seem to be pretty good.
Yeah, I was about to say, you look at the Jets. Grumpy's a little upset. They went with Ahmed Gardner instead of a guy like Evan Neal. Grumpy and I just had a fiery debate on the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man show about Mekhi Becton. Grumpy a little upset. He calls him, what do you call him, Grumpy? So endearingly so.
Fat pig.
A fat pig. Unable to play there at the highest level. He just cannot stay healthy. He thinks that he's got bust written all over him. And again, now that he's fractured his kneecap out for another season, it looks like he could have one of those injury-prone tags slapped.
I just don't understand. If you're being paid millions of dollars, can't you just like hire a nutritionist or go to a gym? I don't understand. If someone was willing to pay me millions of dollars, I would definitely lose some weight.
Yeah. He looked like, honestly, he didn't look in terrible. I mean, he's just a bigger guy. He's like, what is he, like 6'7"? He's always a bigger guy. But I'm like, he didn't look terribly out of shape. And that's why I was just kind of confused. I'm like, the fracture of the kneecap. I'm just like, yikes.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, like Dwayne Brown is not a long-term answer there for the Jets. But, he's one of those Band-Aid pieces that will protect Zach Wilson, allow him to grow a bit. They're adding weapons to that team, which is a huge plus. I mean, like, I'd say you're right. If Garrett Wilson pans out, I would say that's probably a Jets team that will have most offensive prowess, at least regarding their weapons. I can't even recall since when. Again,
Wilson didn't look very good though before getting injured last night. He threw a pick and everything. So I mean, even if he wasn't injured, it's not like that he was playing. So who knows how he's going to be this year?
I still think he's a guy who's going to take time to develop. I think that Grump and I have talked about this. He's one of those type of players that he's got the mentality. I think he's got the charisma to make it in New York. It's just can the play follow and dictate. He showed signs after he came back from injury last year. He showed signs of life, but he's going to be always a guy from BYU. He's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I don't think he's a finished product by any means.
Right.
Atu Rata, though, got to be excited about him. Tony Cheese said, I have the best idea ever. He says, can you have TJ read the audio version of your book? Well, Tony Cheese, I don't think we have about 5 years for me to make one of those books to where all the mess ups and mistakes. I think you have to be a clean and articulate reader. So,
well, what's funny is for this book about the Islanders, there is an audio version of me reading it, so you can enjoy my beautiful Long Island accent reading that book. So it really brings you back to the whole Long Island experience.
There it is. Ponyberg Curtis says here, first of all, boys, I recommended Greg's book to you guys about 6 or 8 months ago, and you both said you never heard of it. Oh, there it is. That's right. I think it's all coming back to me there, Jerry Springer. Sean B says here, what's more hazardous to your health? Dealing with Billy Smith's goaltending craziness in the crease or having sushi at a 7-Eleven? Oof.
I'll have to go sushi at 7-Eleven, I think.
Oh, man. David K said, TJ is out of his element. For certain, I am. No shame about it. Pony Curtis also says here, Greg Prato is the Mario Puzo of Islanders history. I don't know who Mario Puzo is. Grumpy is usually where he wrote
a little book called The Godfather.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So he's the author of the. Grumpy. I'm happy Grumpy's not on right now because he'd be roasting.
I heard it.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say a quick little message to Ponyboy Curtis. I was a huge fan of the whole Outsiders movie. So Ponyboy means definitely a lot. Those very nice things you're saying about me.
Oh, there it is. Scott L said TJ and his pop culture is like talking a foreign language. It's like it's like Mandarin Chinese. It's not something I know very well about. Yeah, Brian B saying, wow, hard to believe. I know. What a films. What's up, Sean? How are you? Glad to see you back.
TJ, I have a very quick question. What will it take for you to take rock music seriously?
Man, I just don't listen to music.
No?
I just I was about to say I usually.
That's not true. You listen on Fridays.
I listen on Fridays. That's right, but that's about the only time I do listen. Is
there like a band? Would you say there's a band that you like more than the other band? Like, is there? Can you think of a band that if their song comes on, you're like, oh yeah, it's a pretty good band? Or
I don't know. Queen?
I've never been. How about band Queen?
Around. I could jam.
Queen, do you like?
Yeah, they're not bad. I could jam around with them, but I'm like, it's just like I don't really listen to the words of songs. It's just kind of like, okay, this is nice to have on. It's just kind of like one of those things that's nice to be there.
All right.
That's about it. It's nothing else too crazy about it. Grumpy's starting to send me all these pictures.
Oh, good.
Oh God, Grump, man, oh man. How many years before we start posting these up, Grumpy? How many years ago?
Well, you don't have to post all of them up.
Oh my God, Grumpy sent us a shirtless pic. Oh my.
Oh, let's see it.
Oh goodness
I
gracious.
think that's what TJ, he doesn't wear a shirt most of the time.
I guess I see where I got it from, Grump.
Yeah.
JG says here, I'm convinced TJ lives under a rock. Yeah, I know. What can I say? Christmas said, wow, TJ never heard of Van Halen. I know. I'm sorry. B40 says that Greg's book was great. We share the same love of Islanders and Kiss.
Thank you, B40.
And he also says, I own a Billy Smith's pads from 1983.
Wow.
And he also says here, let me jump ahead to where he says, I'm sorry, I missed that. He said, Greg, if you want Billy Smith's pads from 1983, hit me up.
I'm just going to say, looking at B40, I don't think Trump's ever looked that good, honestly. He looks great. I think he's been, how they auto-tune, singers auto-tune now because they can't sing. I think maybe he was, they put like a little...
They put a little filter on him, Grumpy.
Some type of filter on there. Yeah, he looks really good there.
Eddie Munson's guitar says, Greg, who's your favorite Stranger Things character?
I am a fan of Hopper. Hopper I like a lot. You know why? Because Hopper reminds me of my brother-in-law, I think, looks a lot like Hopper. So that may be like a, subliminal type thing. But
I know most people have not seen the Black Widow movie, but he was the best thing in it myself. And just watching him try to put on an old uniform that was like, I don't know, 4 sizes too small was absolutely hilarious. That David Harbour is the actor.
Okay.
In that role.
You guys, I think an episode or two ago, were saying what Steve is your favorite character, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Steve. I like Steve. I don't know why. I think maybe because he was portrayed as such a jerk to begin with in the series.
Right.
And he winds up being a nice guy, and he always tries to help everyone.
Right.
So
I was shocked you guys said you did not particularly care for Winona Ryder's character, right?
No, she looks like a rag.
Well, I don't that's not why I don't like her.
That's why I don't like her. She looks like a rag.
You know why I don't like Winona Ryder? Because The Godfather 3 sucked, and if she was in it, it probably would have been better. It's just my personal opinion.
She was supposed to do the Sofia Coppola role, and I know it would have been better. I don't know how much better. And here's the thing. You look at that movie today, and it's like, gosh, you know what? You look at the rest of the garbage they put out today in the movie theaters, like it's really not that bad. There are a couple of scenes that I would excise, and he kind of did that for the most part in the Michael Corleone, the Coda, the last one. But I mean, if that movie was released today as opposed to when it was and didn't have the first 2 movies, you'd say, hey, that was a pretty good movie.
Well, not also having the character Tom Hayden back was, I think, completely ridiculous. And I mean, like, although Sofia Coppola is obviously a great director, she's not a good actress.
She's an okay
and that
director.
Just totally sunk the movie, I thought.
She's an okay director. I wouldn't say great. She's okay.
Yeah.
And she is like the Fredo Lamarillo of the movie world. She only got her directing job through her dad. Let's be honest.
Right.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, to me, my favorite scene in Godfather Part 3 is when Al Pacino talks to the priest.
Right.
To me, I thought that was just a great scene. And the movie is still pretty good, even with Andy Garcia in it.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you one more question now. A few episodes back, you both have a theory that Eddie Munson is not dead or he's going to come back in the next season?
Yes.
I don't know anything about that. That's what TJ says.
Yeah, I think there's too, because he's too now popular of a character, and there's be too much money to be made with merch and everything if he just dies off. I think personally,
I wanted them to kill off the red-headed girl twice. They teased it, and let's whack one of the regular characters. Come on,
what's that?
I wanted to whack one of the regular characters.
Oh yeah.
Good gracious. Hold on. Sorry. I'm just about Grumpy. You guys have given me.
You don't have to put all those pictures up. I just sent you a bunch of whatever I dug up out of my mom's house.
Well, then, Grumpy, let me ask you, what would you say is your favorite Led Zeppelin album?
The easy one is Led Zeppelin 4. gosh, I'll tell you which one I'm not a fan of that everyone's is Led Zeppelin 1.
Think of it that it's their first album and also when it came out in 19. Oh, wait. Do you know what important event happened the day that Led Zeppelin 1 came out?
I do not.
The Jets won Super Bowl III.
Oh, wow. Okay. I know it was 1969. So,
yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. See, now.
So then that shows how much of a joke the Jets franchise is that they have not won. They haven't been to a Super Bowl. Wait, did I say Stanley Cup or Super Bowl? I may have screwed up and said Stanley Cup.
It doesn't matter. We knew what you were talking about.
I meant to say the Jets won the Super Bowl. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, so that shows how. That's all. I'm right now speechless. That's all I'm gonna say.
And I know a lot of people don't like Presents. There are some songs on Presents I really like.
I like the second song. I forget the name. It goes do 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 do.
Yes.
That one's a good one.
For Your Life.
Yes. Even though the album In Through the Outdoor isn't their best, but I love the song. How do you pronounce it? Carousel Alhambra. Yeah, I absolutely love that song.
Yeah,
they were working on that. Did you know that they were working on that for the tour that John Bonham died in 1980? They were going to play that live, and then John Bonham died, and they didn't get a chance to play it live with him.
And I also like In the Evening.
That's a good one.
That's an old throwback, and I often tell TJ the story about how back in the olden days, I remember WBAB on Long Island at 12 o'clock midnight. You can listen to the new Led Zeppelin album. I'm there and I got my 8-track out and I'm recording. I recorded on 8-track. And man, I listened to it till, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
I was in a band in high school. Their name was Altered Reaction. I think some of the members of that band are watching this right now, and we actually covered the song In the Evening.
Nice.
We did.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good, that was the really classic throwback of old Zeppelin, that particular song. But my least favorite, I don't consider Coda really a Zeppelin album.
Coda could have been a lot better because they should have put Hey, Hey, What Can I Do on that, and they should have put on Traveling Riverside Blues, and they totally blew it with that.
Yeah, but they were just outtakes from other sessions.
Yeah.
So anytime you try to do that, okay, probably not. But I think that In Through the Outdoor was probably overall my least favorite. But for favorites, like I said, I love the Physical Graffiti. Was great.
I was going to say Physical Graffiti.
And really underrated. Led Zeppelin 3 is really underrated.
There's one picture there of Grumpy. We'll start off with the shirt on pictures. Look at that, Grump.
Now, Grumpy, what year was that, and what exactly is going on there, would you say?
That was, let me see what year that was.
That was at the warden's parents' house, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say that was 1984.
Okay.
So way back.
So that was just when the whole Dynasty died, 1984.
That's right. That was the end of the Dynasty, and hey,
that's the last time Grumpy had a smile.
Tip of glass to the Islanders. What was and never will be again.
Oh.
Did you have a mustache in tribute to Nystrom at that point, or?
No, I grew them because I think it looked cool.
Okay.
Yeah. No reason other than, hey, I could grow I could grow a mustache. Okay.
Right.
So I figured, sometimes I had the Fu Manchu, sometimes I had the full beard.
Right.
But now, like I said, at least everything had color back then, not anymore.
Oh, there it is, Grumpy. So picture number 1. It's crazy how much similar we look in certain aspects. I'm like, oof.
Yeah, here's your future. Except let me tell you something. At your age, I had way more hair.
There you are, Grumpy.
This is right here. This is I'm all the way on the what is that? The
purple shirt.
The right. Then
my
sister who just passed away in the last year. That's her in the middle. And there's my younger brother. And who's that? I think that's my grandfather is behind my brother. And you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have a son and his name is going to be TJ. I think that's what it was.
I was going to say, were you watching the final moments of the Jets Mud Bowl?
No, I don't know what we were doing, but we all looked extremely bored. I know we were not watching the TV because I knew where that was in the house. We would have had to been looking towards where the picture was taken for that to be. So I think maybe we were looking into the kitchen from there. Maybe we were all hungry or something. I don't know, but it seemed like everyone was, something's up.
Okay.
So stroke your ego a bit, Grumpy. Here you go. Here's a little shirtless pic. Stroke your ego. Sure.
I'm just look at the hair. Holy shit, man! I used to have hair. I used to have hair back in the day.
Yeah, you did used to have hair, and now
Yeah.
not so much. Now,
No,
this
no,
is the
not so
picture. The
much.
next picture is the one that looks eerily similar to me when I've got a beard looking like that. I was just like, holy crap, that looks very
nice.
similar to my like face with the beard and everything like that. So Grumpy, there's the old pictures, the reveal of what
And
Grumpy
I
used
always
to
believe
be.
in dental hygiene.
Mhm.
So TJ, something for you to strive for in the future?
Hold on, looks like you got a corn dog in your mouth. What is that?
No,
I was
dude,
going to say, was that a lollipop or is that a toothbrush?
it's a toothbrush. It's a
Toothbrush. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grumpy. So there it is.
Oh, thank you, Grumpy. I appreciate that. I'd like to give you a round of applause for that. That you.
Like I said, lucky I didn't find them over my mom's house. We're still cleaning my mom's house out. So I'm finding a lot of these gems. There's other pictures too when I was younger, but it's like, yeah, I'm not digging through all that stuff yet. They're just all in big boxes. And you know what's funny? Today, no one has pictures. They just have their phones and the list, that, and the other thing. Where I enjoy the pictures and just shuffling through them. I think I don't know. I enjoy that anyway.
B40 said Billy Jarvis didn't seem to
Harris.
like Harris. I'm sorry. Billy Harris
didn't
seem like Billy Smith very much.
No, I didn't. He talks about a thing. What's his name? Lindsey Ruff. Is that the guy's name? Ruff. Yeah. There's a famous play where he was coming from behind Billy Smith, and Billy Smith held up his stick, and it whacked him in the eye. And Billy Harris said the guy Ruff almost lost his eye. Ruff is the coach of the Devils, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, Lindy Ruff.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, if sometimes if they show him on the bench, you see he has a scar here still. So you can pull it up on actually YouTube. They get into a big fight, Harris and Ruff over there. Excuse me, not Harris, Smith and Ruff.
Give me 1 sec. I'll pull that here. As I'm pulling that here, Tony G's got a Crime and Grumpy for you to read as I'm pulling that for us.
TJ knows about sports. No, he doesn't. Pixar movies, barely. And how to set up a Roomba. I don't even know if he knows how to do that. Well, his wife probably set up the Roomba. That's correct. If ever I need something, I just call TJ's wife, the lovely Paige, and she helps me with it. I might call TJ and like, give me Paige. And then that's whenever I want something to be fixed.
There it is. Hold on, Grump. We're going to get that fight pulled up.
And Tony Cheese, as you can tell, is also follically challenged at this state.
I understand that. So this is,
look at that.
This is, I think, the early 80s. The early 80s, I think.
Leaving it for Van Buck.
Oh no!
This has got not too late.
This has got to be.
It's probably going to happen soon. Or maybe not.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Give it a sec. Okay.
This is probably a Sports Channel broadcast. The Islanders games used to be on Sports Channel, Channel 3, I think, on cable back then.
That's right. You used to have to push the button.
Yep.
Oh man.
TJ, what you're supposed to do is get it lined up.
You know, Grumpy, it's about 3 seconds
there you go.
away. Give it a sec here, huh? Oh,
there it is. Yeah.
Stick.
I don't know. It looks like he tripped over his own stick.
He hit him with the butt of the stick right there to the face. Oh, there it is.
Scrapping.
He's like, I'm doing nothing. What's going on? Yeah, okay. As blood's pouring from his face.
I think he got injured after the fact. That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
I think they show a replay of it, if I'm not mistaken.
They show the replay on it. He definitely hits him with the butt of the stick right in the face.
I'm going to say that they're lucky they don't have instant replay back then like they did today.
Oh, for certain. Could you imagine how many times people would get game misconducts then?
Yeah.
You could always kind of skirt the rules a bit.
What's he crying about? His career stuff anyway. He's trying to get a rub from the great Billy Smith.
Okay.
Well, how many other Lindy Ruff clips are there on YouTube?
I'm not sure, Grump. Oh, he hits him with a little bit of the stick.
Don't get in my crease. Don't get in my crease. He never let anybody get in his crease. Don't get too close. See, that's what's happening. No,
he looked nonchalant. Okay, you don't think that was intentional?
It's kind of hard to say. I don't know.
I mean, you're giving him a lot of credit. He's like a Houdini out there with that stick. The guy was behind him. Look at that.
Oh,
no. You know,
okay.
Billy Smith is much maligned for these things. He's just an innocent bystander on that play.
Oh, sure.
I'm
Oh,
gonna stick up for my guy.
there it is. Brendan C says here, will Stevie G ever hang out again? I'm not sure. Maybe that's one
I don't know.
that's sent there to Greg.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm gonna skip over that one.
David K says, was Charles Wong interviewed for this book?
He was not interviewed for the book, but I actually did speak to him on the phone around that time because he was kind enough to buy copies of the book to give each of the current Islanders players at that point. And I also dodged a bullet. I was offered possibly John Tavares to write the foreword of the book.
Oh,
and it didn't happen. And if it did, it would have totally dated the book, and now Islander fans probably wouldn't have enjoyed the book as much if they had to read a John Tavares forward about it.
I'll just put it another way. It would have been great for initial sales, possibly,
right.
But it wouldn't have aged as well, perhaps, as we'd like.
Exactly.
Oh man. And B40 says, buy this book. I've read it 5 times. One of the best sports books I've ever read. And also he says, it's the most in-depth book on Islanders Dynasty. It needed to be written because the Islanders Dynasty is so overlooked.
That was, it's actually, it's a very good point he just brought up. Thank you, B40. It was at that time where the Islanders, again, the whole dynasty thing. Like I obviously remembered it, but not near. I thought it was not getting nearly the attention that it deserved. If you think about, the Patriots and the Yankees of the late '90s, all these great teams, the Islanders were every bit as good as those teams. No lead that if they were ever behind, they were definitely going to come back. They never quit. They were impeccably coached. The scouting was great. Everything was great about those Islanders teams. I put those early 80s Islanders teams up against the Patriots of the whole entire Brady era, and also the Yankees of the late 90s, early 2000s. Absolutely.
The thing is, those Islanders could play any style, and I think they get lost even in the hockey world, because you had those great Canadian teams just before that had won 4 straight cups. Then right after the Islanders, you had the Gretzky, Messier, Edmonton teams, which won 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 7 years, whatever it was. So they kind of get lost as being that, the cream filling of the Oreo, so to speak.
Right.
Those other 2 teams. But we know better.
James F says here, I had a really cool Bobby Nystrom poster on my bedroom wall.
I think he may be referring to the infamous Bobby Nystrom poster where he's shirtless, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not even going to ask that question. James, you can let us know.
Yeah, James, tell us. I don't know.
Pony Per Curtis also says, I got a copy of the Dynasty on Audible. Also, Greg, I'm a huge Primus fan. Or is that Primus fan? I saw them in Portland back a couple months ago on tribute to King's Tour.
Yeah, Grumpy, that's something you would enjoy. Primus covers the whole Rush album, A Farewell to Kings.
Okay, very good.
And I just saw them. They played Huntington here in New York about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and it was great. They do a great job because that album has Xanadu on it and Closer to the Heart and all the great tracks. So it was great to see that. Yeah, Primus is a great band.
They're an underrated band as well. Now, where did Neil Peart come in your greatest 30 drummers?
Well, the thing is, it's not greatest 30 drummers. It's 30 drummers talk about John Bonham.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Even better.
Yeah, but Neil Peart's the only Rush member I've never interviewed. I interviewed Alex Lifeson, who's an incredibly nice gentleman, and also I've also interviewed Geddy Lee, who's a very nice guy as well. But sadly, never got the opportunity to interview Neil Peart. I would have loved to have interviewed Eddie Van Halen. He was like the top of my Mount Everest, and sadly, I'm never going to get the chance to speak to him.
Don't smoke, kids. It only leads to bad things. TJ, do you know how many members were in the band Rush?
Shit, man.
Okay.
4 or 5 question mark?
Okay. Now listen to me. If you even remotely paying attention to what Greg just said, you should be able to figure it out.
As Grumpy, here's the thing, right? When you guys are talking about music and you're talking, that's nothing. I'm trying to go through the comments, trying to make sure I have those queued up here for the future.
Okay,
I try to make sure everything's going well with the show, huh? 3. Okay.
Greg has interviewed 2 of the 3. he has not interviewed Neil Peart. That's all.
Wait, so hang on a second. So Grumpy, to prove that you listen to TJ, what day of the week does he listen to the radio?
Fridays.
TJ, is
Just
that right?
Fridays.
That's too easy. That's too easy.
All right.
For him. Yeah.
I pay attention to everything he says.
Oh, come on. Grumpy.
Okay, wait, Grumpy, what obscure Mets player did TJ buy a very overpriced baseball card of? You just talked about, I guess,
Lastings Millage.
Lastings
He was,
Millage. All right.
he was there when we did it.
I
I
said, don't do it.
remember when I did it too. He took me aside. He was like, I was like, oh man, Dad, I really want this card. And he took me aside. He's like, maybe there's without saying it in a very, because again, like we were still in the store. He's like, maybe we shouldn't be buying this at the price point that it's at. I was like, I wanted it. So
I remember TJ, in your defense, he was a very much hyped player. I remember people were saying he was going to be a great player at the time, but it just fizzled out.
Yep. Unfortunate. We got a comment here also. B40 said, I asked Baba Booey, the gas station he worked at is on a corner of
Hempstead Turnpike and Wantagh Parkway.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you.
I'll help you there.
There it is. And has Grumpy ever been so excited, says David?
Actually, I've been more excited on a lot of other occasions. You got to remember, usually I'm just talking with TJ or some of his idiot friends on this podcast, so it's tough for me to get excited for that.
So Grumpy is excited though. No, you don't usually ever see this level of excitement from Grumpy. So that is very true. JK said, dude, before 1994, I could count blue skirt fans in my high school on one hand. After 1994, you could lift up a rock and 10 Ranger fans would crawl out.
I'm telling you, it was you were ridiculed if you were a Rangers fan during the Islanders dynasty era. I could, like in my grade school growing up in Merrick, I couldn't think there was not one single Ranger fan. It wasn't until I moved to Greenlawn, starting in 7th grade, that I became friends with a couple of guys that were Ranger fans. And even then, I was like, the Rangers? You like the Rangers? I just couldn't even comprehend it.
Yeah.
What it films here saying, it's TJ. I mean, come on, it's nothing new. Maybe. He's one of those lizard aliens. No, not one of those lizard aliens. And B40 also says here there were a lot of Ranger fans on Long Island, on the island back then. Street hockey was huge also.
Yep. True.
Chris Smith saying Long Island only really has the Islanders. The Mets and the Yankees are more city teams.
I always consider the Mets a Long Island team because Queens is. I mean, people are always like, no, Queens isn't Long Island, but Queens is part of Long Island. I don't know why people always say it's the city. I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah.
And B40 also said, if you grew up on Long Island back then, you grew up thinking the Islanders were the biggest franchise in sports. And hockey was the biggest sport in the world.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Something else too about the Islanders back then, which is talked about in the book. If you think about teams now that win Stanley Cups and Super Bowls and everything else, they're all over media and they're all on TV shows and commercials. The Islanders back then weren't on anything. You didn't see them on no commercials.
Maybe a Modell's
TV, weren't on anything at all.
Maybe a Modell's commercial. Maybe
that.
Maybe. I mean, they lived in the community. They were regular. They were Islanders.
Yeah.
Sean B said, what's going to set me back more? A Bobby Nystrom poster in mint condition or a Vision of Disorder tickets?
No.
I'm going to say probably the Nystrom poster because there's not a whole lot of those left.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know what Vision of Disorder is. I assume
well, it also depends if it is a autographed Bobby Nystrom poster as well.
Well, that's easy. I mean, he'll autograph it for you. No problem.
B40 also says here, from general manager to the coach to the backup goalie, 1980 through 84 Islanders were the greatest team in history.
I agree. The 19 straight playoff victories, Dwayne Sutter in this book says it's never going to be topped. I think 19 straight playoff victories. That's why I was so tormented this year. Do I root for the Rangers or do I root for the Lightning? I just couldn't. I mean,
are you doing that? Are you doing that just because we had the discussion on the show, or?
I'll be honest with you. I just couldn't decide because I saw both your points and just, I mean, see, I'll tell you what. The Rangers, as an Islanders fan, I can't root for the Rangers, but the Rangers do have some likable players. I think their goalie is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that you have to admit, I think he's, because like before this, I just really saw him play against the Islanders and he sucks against the Islanders. but he just totally turned it on against from that Penguin series on. He was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah,
My whole
Shesterkin's
thing
a
is
goaltender.
Yeah, Shesterkin.
the Lightning only got halfway there. It's so tough. It's not the first 2 years.
3
Right.
cups
Particularly
been more valuable than 4 cups pre-J.
No. Stop talking, please.
Come on.
It's 19 straight playoff victories. Doesn't matter. Okay. We're not talking about 3 cups as opposed to 4 cups in the years. It's way more difficult to win 19 straight playoff series in the free agency era for certain. They were never going to reach that. I mean, they got halfway there. One series over halfway there. That's as far as they got. They weren't even close. That's not even close.
Okay.
You had to win another 8.
I have good news for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They can start all over again next year.
There you go.
Got another comment here for B40 said, I'm sorry, that one's from earlier. James F says here, how about a one-way ticket to the Grizzly Maze?
I think that's a reference to did you guys ever see the documentary called Grizzly Man?
I saw it.
Was that the one who lived with bears and got killed?
Yes, exactly. Yes, and he wound up getting killed by bears. Yeah, that's a great documentary. I love that documentary.
All I thought about, what a dumbass that guy was.
His name was Timothy Treadwell. That was the guy's name.
That's right. Now you know what they call him? Just, rabbit food. That's all he is. He's dead.
No, grumpy rabbits don't eat meat like that. He was bear.
Yeah, but that stuff decomposes. The grass grows. The rabbits get to eat it.
Ah, gotcha. I can't tell you. I've never watched that, but I am. Okay, gotcha. The Grizzly Man.
They're wild animals. I realize, you live with them for a while or whatever in that habitat. They're still wild animals.
It's like people who train hippos and are great friends with hippos, and hippo doesn't like you one day.
Who trains hippos? I never heard of any hippos.
There's a story of this person. It's not in the United States, but he lived with this hippo and he had trained this hippo, and the hippo just one time didn't like the way he was looking at him. I guess he just grabbed him with his damn mouth and sunk him right to the bottom of the water and killed him.
My dad was really good on information like that. That the most powerful jaws in the world are hippo jaws. I don't know. Was this guy like taking pictures, laying inside, going, "Hey, look at me"? And is that what happened? I don't know.
Give me a sec. I'll pull up on some hippo.
We don't really care. Go to the next comment.
Brendan C said, "You'd get more with your money with a Bobby Nystrom poster."
Yeah.
David K there saying, TJ is seriously completely out of this interview. I try. What can I say? Greg's Kiss book is also great. Greg should do an entire book on Billy Squier's Rock Me Tonight video.
Well, it's funny that you say that because one of my earlier books is called MTV Ruled the World, the Early Years of Music Video, and that's actually discussed in that book. It is.
TJ, I believe that is the video that he thinks killed his career.
Yeah, TJ, I'll just quickly tell you, there was this rock guy. I was going to explain to you, TJ, that in the early 80s, there was a rock singer named Billy Squier who was actually very popular.
Yeah.
And he had a hit song called The Stroke. Do you know that song at all? Does that ring any bells?
No.
Okay.
Stroke me.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. He was very, very popular. And then he put out a video of him dancing and prancing very effeminately.
Oh, wow.
And it just totally, like his career, I've never seen it was like that. It was just over. Like you never heard of him again and his career was done. But he has the album called Don't Say No is actually still a good album. I sometimes listen to that. It's actually very
album upstairs. Still have it.
Yeah. That's the drummer on that album got a great John Bonham drum sound.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning a lot of stuff today.
And
TJ,
if you official video, Stroke Me. Was that okay? I'm trying to find
it. The video he's talking about is called Rock Me Tonight.
Yeah,
oh my God. Yeah.
If you want to pull that up, that's actually worth playing if you could find that.
We showed that one before. Oh my God. Because I could tell it's got one of the red. It's got like I've watched some of it before, and I can tell you one thing. I'm not watching this video.
But honestly, the song wasn't horrible.
The song wasn't horrible. I agree.
But the video was just bad.
Yeah. You could skip it along to like maybe 20 seconds into it.
Yeah, he's just like rolling around on the floor. Yeah, I could see how that didn't resonate too well.
And then here
Oh my goodness. He pulled his panties off. Here's the thing. In today's day and age, this would be a huge hit.
Oh, good gracious.
They probably say he's too much. He's got too much toxic maleness in him.
Wait, watch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, and then he puts on the girl shirt. See?
Yeah, no, Jesus.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not a good look.
No, it's not. Okay. Now I learned.
Hard to believe that's almost 40 years ago. Hard to believe.
That was from 1984. Yeah. That video.
Fred D said, "Is that guitar in the background Paco Rabanne scented?"
What? Oh, this. Oh, yeah. I actually have some guitars in the back. Just some guitars that I'm not sure what he means by the whole Paco Rabanne scented, but I do have some guitars hung up in the back. If you see that.
Now, do you play guitar?
I do. I do play guitar. An interesting factoid: back in 1990, when TJ was about what, like 2?
Not born.
3 or 0?
Not even born. 0.
Okay, not even born.
He was less than 0 at that point. Believe me.
Yeah. It was actually 1991. I took lessons from the guitarist from the band Dream Theater. Are you familiar with them, Grumpy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he was based on Long Island. His name was John Petrucci. I took lessons from him, which was a pretty cool thing to look back on because Dream Theater is a pretty popular band. So
I'm an average air guitar player. That's about it.
Oh man!
I always wished I could play guitar. I was always envious of anyone who could play guitar. Always.
Now it's actually very easy. It's very easy now because you go on like YouTube and there's all these very easy. It'll show you exactly what to do, like where to put your fingers. So probably easier now than ever.
Kind of looking at some of these comments coming up.
I was going to say, let me see some more of these comments. I like these comments.
Tony Cheese saying, "I thought I heard Angry Birds playing in the background." Anybody hear that coming from TJ's mic? No, I don't even play Angry Birds. So no, Tony Cheese. I like the quip though, trying to say I'm not paying attention. TJ is so lost. TJ's lost. There says B40. Frank or Fred D says here, is this interview dedicated to the late great Ben Stern?
Yes. Yes, Ben Stern, the father of Howard Stern, recently died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, he just recently posted that, or that it was.
God,
Howard Stern was interviewed in an article, and he just shared the article, and that was part of the article. He said that his father recently passed away at the age of 99, I believe.
Yeah, I'm like, gosh, he had to be really old.
Yeah,
I mean, Howard Stern's got to be 70. No,
man, he's getting up there. He looks.
I think so. Yeah, has to be about that.
Yeah.
Got here some more comments. I'm gonna have you read this one, Grumpy. I'm still trying to sort through something.
How the hell do you not who Andy Van Halen or William Shatner is? Freaking loser. That's what he wanted to add, but he ran out of space.
Yeah, I know they cap it off on a certain thing there.
So
you could write 10 books on Jets misery.
I wanted
40.
I was going to say, TJ, do you know who Eddie Van Halen was married to? She was a very popular actress.
No.
Before
I'll give you a hint. She was the best looking one on the show One Day at a Time. The original.
Again, it's like we're speaking Mandarin Chinese to me, Grump. I'm not sure.
Valerie Bertinelli.
Yes.
You could have spotted me every single letter of the name until I got all the way through the end. I wouldn't have been able to guess it. JG says, Greg, you should write a book about the John Spano debacle.
That's actually not a bad idea. I like that idea. Yeah, it's not bad. The thing, too, which I'm just going to point out, too. So ESPN does 30 on 30 about the whole John Spano thing. How about a 30 on 30 about the bloody dynasty? How about, but that would make too much sense, I guess.
No. Well, maybe they'll do it now since they have all the NHL rights for the next number of years.
Maybe. I was always hoping 30 on 30 would do a thing about the whole sack exchange too, but they haven't done that yet.
Yeah. I mean, really, TJ doesn't realize, but the Jets were pretty good back then.
They were really good. Their biggest screw up was getting rid of Walt Michaels. If they kept Walt Michaels as the coach, I think they would have been in the Super Bowl at some point in the 80s.
He had a meltdown after the game they lost to the Dolphins.
I know, but it's unheard of to a coach takes the team to the AFC Championship and he's fired. I mean, I can count on one hand that ever happening.
I think he had a pretty big drinking problem too.
I interviewed him for that sack exchange book. He claims he didn't, but who knows?
Listen, I don't know, but that's what I heard. I heard he had issues drinking, but I remember he lost his mind because that piece of shit Don Shula did not cover the field. You got to remember, TJ, the Jets. Richard Todd. I think Richard Todd was the quarterback.
Todd was the quarterback. Yes,
and they had Wesley Walker.
Yeah, we're talking about this book. The sack exchange book.
And they could. Was Barkham on that team still?
He was.
Okay. And Freeman.
There was also Freeman, McNeil.
Freeman McNeil was a running back. They were good. and Johnny Hector was there. I think Johnny Hector was still there. And the defense was phenomenal. And they had rain the night before, and Shula does not cover the field. Who the hell doesn't cover the field before a game, first of all? And here's the thing. The Jets were a team that was predicated on, deep fly patterns, speed team. So you put them all in the mud and, you get what you get. And that was A.J. Dewey's biggest game ever, 3 interceptions as a linebacker on Richard Todd. And Walt Michaels lost his freaking mind. I think his final score was 14-10, I believe.
It was actually 14-0.
Okay, 14-0, even worse.
14-0, and it was actually 0-0 at the half. The 14 points were scored in the second half. 1 touchdown was A.J. Dewey returning a pick six.
Oh, that was terrible.
It was.
David K also says, is TJ enjoying anything about this? Absolutely, David. I'm learning. I'm slowly learning.
No,
wait a second, TJ. I was going to say I could actually show you some things that'll maybe that you'll find. You want to show? I have some interesting Islanders like stuff. You want to show you some stuff from my collection?
There it is. Yeah, absolutely.
There's an Islanders yearbook I have from 75-76.
Oh man, that's like
look at this. Schmidt beer.
Schmitz. Do they even make Schmitz anymore?
I don't think so.
Schmidt beer.
And this came with a Chico Resch.
Chico Resch. I love this helmet. This helmet was great.
And I can show you. This is a shirt that I have that looks like just your average, ordinary thing, but then you turn it around.
Chico Resch, number 1. I just wish Chico would have embraced going bald instead of wearing that wig.
And I want to show you this. This is very good. This is an obscurity. This is an Islanders 86-87 yearbook. Now you see it was a tie-in with Jewel of the Nile was the big hit movie. So they did Jewel of the Isle, which is an embarrassment. You see Dennis Potvin dressed like
God.
It's Brent Sutter. And then I'm going to show you what they did here, which is a complete abomination. They made all the players dress like this.
Jesus. Put all the
and the worst one is Billy Smith. You can see that right there is Billy Smith.
Oh, he looks like Blackjack Mulligan in that picture. I tell you, the marketing staff has not improved at all throughout their history.
It's always been one of the weak spots of the organization.
And I'll show you some more quick little things. This is the first book. I bought this in around Christmas '83. This was like the only Islanders book that was available for a very, very long time that I still have. And then this I just recently got through eBay. This is a book I remember a friend had that I remember seeing it like 1981, 1982. His father had it, and I never saw it ever again. I recently got it through eBay for like $20.
Wow.
And when I opened it and I got it, there was a big surprise. There was an autograph by Clark Gillies.
Oh, man. See, that's called that's a jackpot right there.
Yeah, that it was Clark Gillies and also Clark Gillies and David Langevin.
Oh, Dave Langevin. Yeah, man, he was something else. Boy, I tell you what, you got a steal on that. You got a steal on that one.
I did. I was very happy with that. $20. So that's my collection of Islander shit.
Now it makes me want to start getting more Islander stuff in the collection. It makes me
you should. Why don't you?
That type of stuff. I used to collect Crumpy. I used to collect a lot of stuff. But I gotta find a place to store them all here.
Yeah. You got to find a place to store. You have a place to store it now. It's called My House.
Yeah, I was going to say,
TJ. I'm going to share a secret with you and everyone else listening to this right now. You can get a lot of Islander stuff for cheap. No one really buys that. No one really buys that stuff.
They don't. They don't.
No, they don't. Which is kind of sad, but.
Oh man, got a comment here. Doug R says, as soon as Kadri is signed, the rebuild begins. Well, I hope maybe it begins best case scenario at the trade deadline if we're out of the picture. Puerto Curtis says Greg Prato over Mario Puzo.
Wow. All right. Here's the thing. I like Greg, but no. Sorry.
Oh goodness. Sean B said, you told me we were going to use Mark. I couldn't even tell you.
Aggie's talking about this. No, that is not Mark Gastineau ass. That is actually Greg Prato's ass right there.
There it is. There it is. Puerto said, Greg, did you ever talk directly to Les Claypool? How would you describe him? He was one of my idols.
Yes, not only have I spoke with him directly, I did a book about Primus about maybe 5 or 6 years ago called Over the Electric Grapevine. And I've done many, many interviews with Les. I'll actually try to pull up a picture if you'd like to see.
Yeah.
With Les. Well, you guys can keep talking, and I'll just try to find. But yeah, just to say what type of person he is, he's a super nice guy, very, very friendly, and I think if I had to pick, he's my favorite living rock bassist, Les Claypool. Grumpy, are you familiar with the band Primus at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah, because he plays a 6-string bass, he plays a 4-string bass, plays a bass with also a whammy bar. He does a lot of thumping and plucking and stuff. He's a great, great bass player. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
thumping and plucking. That's like I could imagine plucking the strings and thumping the guitar. But
oh my God! All right, TJ, what's the next comment, please? Whenever you talk about music, you just embarrass me. And
that's why he wants to keep me quiet because I'm embarrassing him.
Fred Beekman says Greg Prato is greater than Mario Tennis. Okay, I'll say okay with that.
Chris Smith said, "Why is this taking so long to sign Kadri? They did. If they did, why is it so secretive?" That's a good question. I think that's the $1 million question. I could ownership, I'm sure, would want to announce something like that, or would want Lou to announce something like that as soon as it's done and signed, right? Season tickets are way down.
Okay. Nazem Kadri's not selling season. Hey, I can't wait to go see Nazem Kadri.
It's better than doing nothing. Right now, it looks like the Islanders have just said, we traded the 13th overall selection in this year's draft for Romanov.
I think what they should do is put Matt Barzell in like a little cowboy hat and say, "Yeah, giddy up." Put that on there as your, for like your yearbook. Take him with his shirt off, have him go, wee-hoo, and then have everybody come buy season tickets.
Let me ask you this. Was the cowboy hat more embarrassing than when the Rangers did that little Mom Jean ad?
It was not a cowboy hat, really. It was the movie at the time was from Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile, Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. And here's the thing. Jewel of the Nile was, if Romancing the Stone was a 3.5 star out of 4 movie, Jewel of the Nile was 2, maybe 2.5. So when the Islanders, their marketing staff, they're not even going with Romancing the Stone. They're going with the B-level movie and a ripoff of the B-level movie. Michael Douglas wore a hat that was very similar to the ones that the Islanders were wearing in those pictures. Not cowboy hats. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's not a cowboy hat.
Also, I just want the previous person. That's a picture of me with also Les Claypool. That's who he's talking about.
Let me remove.
So what are you all drinking?
Not too sure what. I don't think I was drinking anything. He actually has his own wine line, so it's called, I think, Pachyderm.
Okay.
So
Grumpy, I am a wine connoisseur, Grumpy, of Barefoot Moscato family size bottle size. So Grumpy, there we go. That can relate.
Have you ever heard of anything called a family size bottle of wine? And if you drink it all for yourself, is it really a family size bottle, or is it just alky sized?
It's just a family size bottle, Grumpy. That's all.
I never even heard of a family size bottle of wine.
This also has a bonus. Here's a picture of me with the late great Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
About 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to see him do a comedy show here on Long Island. He was he was great. Very, very sad that he's no longer with us.
Yeah,
I loved his cameos towards the tail end that he was putting out. Those were always great.
Yeah,
the voice was so distinguished. I mean, you could.
He was the voice of a Disney character.
Iago, Grumpy.
There you go. That was a layup for you. That was a layup.
I knew.
I knew you'd get that.
I know that.
Also, I just want to let you know that the Mets won tonight, 1-0.
There
my
it
boy
is.
Jacob deGrom.
He did.
Jacob deGrom back in action, looking great. B40 says here the Jets lost to the Browns in 1987 playoffs. It still bothers me.
That was bad. Yeah, the story with that one, the Jets had the lead. There was only minutes left, and then Gastineau had a boneheaded a roughing the passer penalty, and then of course the Browns came right back and tied it. They were down by more than one score too, and it was just a few minutes remaining, and that is of course in the book. I'll actually give it away. It's probably one of the top ones. It's towards the top of the list. As far
and
as
they lost that game in overtime, did they not?
They did, yeah. And it went to double overtime. There were multiple field goals missed. Like the Browns missed one, the Jets missed one, and then the Browns got the winning one in second overtime.
And Pat Ryan was still the Jets quarterback at that time.
It was Ken O'Brien. Yeah, it was Ken O'Brien. Then they benched him. They brought Pat Ryan. Then Pat Ryan got injured that game, and then they brought back Ken O'Brien. Typical Jets fiasco.
Typical Jets.
Yep, there you go.
Typical Jets. Lou, what is this, Grumpy? How do you pronounce that?
Lou Lamangino.
Lou Lamangino, says Sean B.
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sure that was a long time ago with the comments, so I don't know.
B40 says Lou stabilized the franchise after Pajama Boy bolted. For certain, he did.
True.
Absolutely, he did. Frank K said, "I will remember Lou as a great pre-lockout general manager. After that, not so much." Doug R said, "The best general manager of the year award is a load of crap." Or David S says here, "What's up, TJ, Grumpy Old Man, and hello, Greg."
Hello, David.
What a film saying Kadri gets under my skin a bit. Hypothetically speaking, if the Islanders sign Marchand, could you bear that as a fan?
Yeah, because he's on your team.
Yeah, he's not a free agent, but
the only guy I could never ever stand if he ever played for the Islanders was Bobby Clark. And I hated him. I hated him. Oh.
What about Dave Schultz?
No, I didn't hate Schultz.
No, okay.
Gillies always beat the shit out of him, so
he did.
But
broke
Bobby
his jaw,
Clark,
right? Didn't he, if I'm not mistaken?
I mean, that was the end of David Schultz. That's like those heavyweights.
Yeah.
Even like in MMA, right? You're invincible until you get beat, and then all of a sudden that's like the end for you. And it was like that as a goon in the NHL back in the day.
Yeah. They always talk about Gillies beating Schultz, but there's also footage on YouTube of Dave. I believe his name is David Robinson with the Canadians beating up David Schultz as well.
Oh, it might have been Larry Robinson.
Larry Robinson. Yeah. Larry Robinson. Yeah.
Larry Robinson, who also coached under Lou Lamoriello back in the day and won the Stanley Cup. He was not to be messed with.
Right.
He was tough. He wasn't, a goon, but he absolutely could throw the hands.
Yeah.
I totally had forgot. We're more than halfway through the show, but we do have an ad today to read from DraftKings. Guys, the action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer, with tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports. You can fuel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet of up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all major action from baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and make your first deposit and get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. That's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes in the description for additional details.
Yay, TJ.
Thanks, Grumpy. You stalled long enough to me get back to the normal page. Christopher C. said, Grumpy and Greg, why would you want the Islanders to move away from the city? I like the Islanders, and I'm just a hockey fan from the Bronx, New York. Do I have to be a Rangers fan because of your statement?
No, I never said the Islanders move away. I meant the Island. Well, we were saying the Islanders should move to Suffolk County because if they're a Long Island team, why should they move closer to the city?
Right. They're not moving anywhere.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. No, I always thought when I was younger, and my dad would always say they should move out more when they were having issues with Nassau Coliseum, move more out towards Suffolk County.
I agree. I totally agree with you. And also, I will never understand why they couldn't have just fixed up Nassau Coliseum, especially after they fixed it up somewhat. But now it's just sitting there pretty much. I mean, what is it being used for now? Just concerts?
Paperweight.
Yeah, just that was such a stupid waste of money.
Yeah.
Got a comment here from James F saying, talk about sports loudmouths. Lou Rossi. Lou Rossi. Grump, who's Lou Rossi?
I don't know who it is, but I just know how to pronounce his name.
I don't know if he's an Islanders player or I don't know.
Fred D said, who's more likely to storm the Capitol? Lou R or Jeff L with hockey sticks?
I don't know.
I know either of those are, Fred. I can't tell. I don't know if those are inside.
I know you're not doing every comment.
That's correct.
So what made you highlight that one?
Here's the thing. I don't know if that name is like, holy shit, that's a guy back from the 19. I don't know, Grumpy. Here's the thing. When we're starting throwing shit that's out of my element, I'm like, well, maybe this applies to the element.
I just want to know what your thought process is for when you select a starred comment.
We went through a very in-depth screening process, Grump, and that one made it through. I'm sorry that it didn't tickle your fancy. Not everything is going to win in the grumpy old man's eyes. Chris Smith said, if Atu Ratu is any good and some of the other draft picks, that's going to obviously have a good impact there on Lou's legacy is what that comment was referring to. And Chris Smith also said, Trotz looked like he had lost the team. They weren't playing for him.
True.
I agree.
True and true.
David K said, TJ woke up with the current Islanders talk. Yes, there it is. And he also said, with that being said, I'm curious as to what TJ's favorite call-ins or type-ins are. Mine is Goon. I like Goon stuff too. I wonder if David K is related to Goon or maybe the same person. But yes, I do like Goon stuff. I like everybody's stuff on this show. I don't have a favorite. Doug R said, bring in Atu Ratu. Bring in William DeFore, says Doug R. I don't think
they'll be there for training camp.
I think that Atu Ratu, maybe depending on how the season goes, by the end of the year, might see a little bit of a chance, or if injuries occur, he might get himself a call up. But that's if he's getting a call up, we're in dire straits. The team is either injured beyond all belief, or the season's over.
True.
So I don't think any Islander fan wants to see Atu Ratu next year, unless it's like, hey, he's played so well in Bridgeport that they have to give him a chance.
There you go. That's the one scenario. Yes.
Christopher C said, Greg, as a writer and artist myself, all you're doing is pushing me to become a better writer, inspiring people out there, Greg.
Thank you, Christopher.
And if you look at Christopher's little picture there, he actually drew all those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So the thing I was going to say quickly about publishing, now it's easier than ever because I do books through traditional publishers, and I also do books that I just put out as a self-published thing. Like, for instance, the book I did about the Islanders, Dynasty, that was entirely self-published. So I did the writing, the editing, the formatting. I had a friend of mine take photos. So that was totally they call it I forgot the exact words, like a cottage industry. Is that what it's called when you do everything yourself? That's pretty much what I do with a lot of my projects now.
Okay. Well, there you go, Christopher. What
a film saying, Greg is a great guest. Grumpy is shining again, and TJ is fully clothed. This is perfection. That's what a film's. Chris Smith said here, TJ, your quarterback, Kenny Pickett, is playing now. I gotcha.
Deep in the fourth quarter, the 7th string quarterback from the University of Schittsburg.
Oh, man.
Kenny Pickett.
Sean B said, who had a better career that stunk more, like a protein fart? In a Dodge Daytona with the heat on, Joey Gallo or Mark Sanchez?
Well, Sanchez, you can never take away those first 2 years.
Joey Gallo wasn't bad for a while.
Oh, man,
here's the thing. Gallo is fresh in people's minds right now. But if you talk to, some of the earlier teams he played for, he doesn't have the reputation he had when he was the Yankees. Mark Sanchez, when you think Mark Sanchez, what do you think?
Butt fumble.
Butt fumble. There you go. That doesn't have any, Joey Gallo doesn't have anything like that. Butt fumble. When your name is synonymous with butt fumble, I'm sorry. That's more than a protein fart right there. Butt fumble. There you go.
Let me ask you this. How many weeks in a row, does anyone remember how many weeks in a row that was like on ESPN's top, or like the top not play? It was like so many weeks in a row.
It was, yeah.
I think it's still there now, isn't it?
No, it's not anymore. They eventually removed it, but it was there for a long time.
When NFL Network does the worst plays of all time and butt fumble is number 1 or in the top 5, you're not seeing Joey Gallo on any of those lists.
That's true. Fred D said here, good analogy. Let's follow the yellow brick road to the Stanley Cup glory. I like that one. The yellow brick road. Got to take it. James F says here, how many pages is the Islanders book Dynasty there, Greg?
411.
I can tell you that right now. Let me find
411.
What is it?
411.
Yeah. You're right. It's about 411. That's
411 pages of Islanders glory of the Dynasty time period. Bob, son of Stan, says, hey, guys, good evening to you. Greg, what do you think of this garbage?
No, he says, what do you think of garbage?
Oh, what do you think?
Yeah, Garbage, the band. There's a band named
If I could read.
Okay, here's the thing, TJ. Bob, son of Stan, has brought that up before about the band Garbage.
I didn't know that's a band. And every time he says it,
We've talked about it being a band on this very show previously. I didn't know who they were. He asked me if I knew who Garbage was. I made a joke about you, and now Garbage comes back.
Now it's coming back. I got a Garbage co-host. Yeah, now it's coming back. But I'm sorry, Greg. What do you think about Garbage?
I mean, it's a band that I respect. I'm not a super huge fan. I did interview Butch Vig from that band, who also produced Nirvana, the huge Nirvana album called Nevermind. That's what he's probably best known for. But I interviewed him for the Songfacts site. If you go on songfacts.com and search for Butch Vig, V-I-G, you'll see the interview I did with him. And I asked him about Garbage and all that stuff. And I was going to say, too, if anyone wants to go on, find me on Twitter, I'm at twitter.com/Greg Prato Writer. I always post my latest articles, interviews, and info about all of my books and everything there as well.
Do that a little bit slower, Greg.
Twitter.com/Greg Prato Writer.
There you go.
I'm about to pop it up on screen, Grumpy, so everybody.
There you go. Why don't you do that?
You know, Grumpy, because I can't just do it at the flick of a finger. It takes
because honestly, it's easier. Like if I had Twitter, I would.
Well, I'll be honest. I'm glad,
but I don't. So let's see. Here it is. There you go. GregPratowriter.
I'll zoom in for people. I'll zoom
in.
Yeah,
good job.
I hope that didn't screw up the aesthetic feel to it, but that's where you go. Got a comment here also. Meatball Parm saying, hey, what's up, Meatball Parm? James F saying, are we back tonight, guys? That's right, James, we are. Brian J said, can you imagine if they traded away Matt Barzal? Could you imagine what would happen to the franchise? What would the fan base think if you trade away a guy like Matt Barzal? I could not imagine that being very popular.
I think our show would become more popular.
Well, I'm not.
When the Islanders do poorly, our numbers do better.
Is it because we speak very positively of them, or something?
The truth? Because we speak the truth.
You know, I just want to say the way that I found your show was this last season. I was so down in the dumps with how awful the Islanders were doing. I had to find someone that was sharing my absolute misery, and that's how I looked up on YouTube Islanders or something. That's how I found your podcast. That's how I've been a faithful listener ever since probably January or like February.
New York Islanders disappointment, and there it was.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
One right there.
Unhappy with the Islanders? Listen to these guys. Like the old, remember Ghostbusters when they did the TV commercials? Hey, having any paranormal activity? Call us 1-800-GHOSTBUSTERS.
Oh man, Drew L said TJ looked like he wanted to go to sleep during the whole book saga. No, Drew L.
I do have to apologize. That was a very gratuitous long book plug at the beginning. I'm sorry if I droned on a little bit too much there.
No,
that's all right.
Grumpy's been looking forward to talk. Grumpy's like a kid in a candy shop, and I'm sure a lot of other listeners are too.
Great.
I know.
Thank you.
Mark A said Kadri was in Garden City last week looking for a home.
Oh God, don't say that. I hope he's lying.
No, here's the thing. Coach Tommy B had told me about this. This was before you joined the show. He said he was in the area, had pictures of him in the area, right? Coach Tommy B, investigative reporter. Also, maybe Lou had those pictures and he found them in the garbage can. But Coach Tommy B did confirm that he was in the area, Grump.
Okay. Was this before or after you two had the Islanders selling the team?
This was before. So
it went from bad to worse, in other words?
Yes. And Brian J said the G-men are light years ahead of the Jets.
I don't know.
I think the Jets might have the quarterback. The Giants do not. That's for certain.
Well, we don't know if the Jets do either. He's on the bench now.
Yeah.
He's hurt.
2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, but Grumpy, I was telling TJ before when you weren't on that Wilson looked not very good though before he even got the whole thing last night. He threw a pick and he was missing some passes, so it's not like he was doing great before the injury.
Okay, Mike White's not the answer. That much I can.
No, I don't think he is either.
Was he getting any pressure on the right hand side? Was there any pressure on him?
Probably.
I'm going to say probably the pass protection was better. Now that fat bastard was hurt.
Oh, stop. When he's healthy, he's good. Toby O'Connor said, I hope Kadri does sign with another team other than the Islanders. You and me both. James F. Grumpy's got a comment because he said, congratulations to Massapequa, LL.
Little League.
Making Williamsport. Let's go. Let's go, team. Win that championship. Oh,
actually, TJ, I'd like to apologize to you for pronouncing it LL, because the last time that you tried to put words to initials, you came up with defensive back Cooper.
Exactly. Just so I said LL Grumpy. I kept it the same way it was read. Fred D says, is there any connection between Greg's love of hockey and hockey pucks that were served at his family's 4th of July parties?
Yes, that I have to admit that Fred was the keyboardist in my high school band, the band I was telling you about that we did the Led Zeppelin cover. The band was called Altered Reaction, and he used to come to my family's 4th of July parties, and my dad would sometimes cook the burgers a little too well done. And that was the same. My dad was the guy who passed his love of the Islanders on to me. I followed him to my next door neighbor's house to watch that Game 6 of the 1980 Stanley Cup. So that's how I started becoming an Islanders fan, was thanks to my dad. So thank you, Bob Prato.
There it is.
Now, Fred Diekman, let me tell you something. I know you're watching this podcast today because Greg's on it. You better damn be subscribing. You better be putting the notification buttons, hitting the likes, and do the same thing for the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man Show. That's just something you have to do.
Now, Fred, and I know Fred is a very big fan of the Mets. Now, the Mets are discussed on this show and also the TJ.
We talk about them on the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man Show every week, just about.
There you go. So I think Fred should start watching both.
Absolutely, Fred. Get with the program.
Oh, I totally forgot to say, right? If you like, number one, if you're new to the show, we invite you to stick around a while. I know we're
like telling them 2 hours in. That's the way.
2 hours in. If you've
nice way to bury the lead, TJ.
If you stuck around for 2 hours, right? You want to make sure you stick around some more. We invite you to stick around some more. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. Also, if you leave a thumbs up, apparently that helps the algorithm. So make sure you leave a thumbs up if you like the content. Now, this podcast takes place every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, we'll have guests coming on. I can't remember who we've got coming on this. Oh, this Wednesday, Andy Francis, Grumpy Old Man. Andy Francis and you, I'm sure, are going to be talking very positively about Nazem Kadri at length on this Wednesday show. Also, we have another podcast that takes place every Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. You can find that in the link in the description below or as a featured page on our YouTube channel. Make sure you give that a check out. It is a must-listen/watch. We talk all things sports on that show. We talk NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB, college athletics, European football, anything and everything sports on that show. Also, we have a fan favorite segment, Fan Fights, where fans in the stands duke it out and beat the heck out of each other. And it's usually a funny watch. Nobody usually seriously gets injured. Occasionally the ones, sometimes they do, but we try to avoid those ones. But make sure you give that show a listen, called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
You know what I love about the shows is that there's never ever shitty politics being discussed, because I hate politic talk. I hate that.
Yeah.
Also, second thing, you guys don't just talk about sports, talk about like a wide variety of stuff. And also, I like to see both you guys bickering as well.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. We try to keep politics as far away from this show and every show as we can. There's no place in a sport. Sports.
We're just here to have fun. We're just here to have fun. And here's the thing. We talk movies. We talk television. We just make fun of TJ. Just good stuff.
Good, hearty content.
Good old family fun.
Oh, and then Grumpy, you'll start a new segment that you'll show more photos, or that was just the strictly.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm digging out the photos. I can't imagine the type of slams. I don't know if TJ's found any comments that are critical of the Grumpy Old Man's pictures.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure they're coming. I just see the smile on his face right now.
No, not about that. Not about that. Tony Cheese just reminded me. Sorry, we're blocking Greg's face. Don't bother promoting. That's right, Tony Cheese. I had forgot about that. Tony Cheese. It took me 2 hours to remember to promote our channels, the channel that we're doing the show on, right? But this is 100%. If you like just getting a short little clip every once in a while, oh man, that's right. Do we need to rebuild? That is 100% right. The short clip channel. If you want just a little clip and an update, you can't watch the 3 hours at the moment. The Islanders Never Say Die in TJ and Grumpy Old Man clips is a must check out, because they'll just have the little tiny shortened version of it. Tony Cheese does a great job, and so does Drew L. And making sure you guys have those shortened versions of it. Thank you, Tony Cheese and Drew L, for that. Absolutely. Thanks for reminding me too. I'm sorry. I'm forgetful at times, but thank you guys.
It'll be interesting to see if I make that short clip thing at maybe from this episode. We'll see.
You won't.
I'm sure.
You won't.
I'm sure he will, Grumpy.
It's usually something where I get explosively pissed off at TJ or
wait. What about TJ not knowing who Eddie Van Halen was?
Oh, I'm
That
sure.
maybe?
Trust me. We've gotten the DB Cooper, defensive back Cooper.
Oh
on
yeah,
there.
defensive back Cooper. Defensive back Cooper.
I'm sure that there will be me not knowing about modern pop culture on there in some capacity.
I was going to say, I also liked how a couple weeks back, TJ, you finally remembered who Howie Spiro was.
After 3 weeks.
Oh, that's the guy who sent him out, the investigative guy. Okay, now I remember.
For who, though?
I don't remember who. Oh, it was Dave Winfield. Dave Winfield.
Yes.
There it is.
Wait.
Who hired him?
Yeah, I was going to say, who hired him?
Steinbrenner.
Oh!
Which one?
George.
All right.
Very good. Very good.
Man. It only took multiple weeks in a row of coming at me, making sure that paying attention. B40 says here, Wilson is going to be another Sanchez. Now,
it did cross my mind last night watching that. And also, sadly, he may be, it reminded me of also Chad Pennington when he had that bad hand injury in a preseason game.
Oof.
All I have to say was maybe if he had a little less comedy with his mom's next door neighbor, he'd be a better football player today.
James F saying, I bought that book for my son's birthday, talking about the Dynasty book. I've been asking him if he finished reading it. So I can read it now. Still no response. There it is. But it's a good book there. Grumpy loves it there, and it's a good book. It's got great reviews there too on Amazon as well. The Dynasty book there, talking about as we go through some dark times for the Islanders up in front.
Yes.
To read about the good days. David K said, to be honest, I never heard of a man that doesn't listen to music or a human. I know. It's one of the things that makes me
okay. Don't get too much on TJ. He does listen to music. It's just one day a week. He rewards himself. I don't even know what that means for a week of getting. I don't even understand the concept. Don't ask me to understand the concept, but on Friday, he rewards himself by listening to the music. How far away from work?
I'm probably about a 10 or 15-minute drive to work. So my
commute
is not great.
To music. I got to
take 2 or 3 songs.
Oh my God.
But something we talked before, so there's not a song that comes on like, oh yeah, like that's a song I like, or yeah, that's like a band that I like. It doesn't.
I couldn't even tell you the music they come out with now. When I'm at the gym, I kind of listen to a few songs, but it's always the same songs. But I'm like, yeah, I've been without. Here's the thing, right? Like I haven't listened to music at the gym probably now for about.
Don't they play music in the gym?
They do now, but I'm one of those people who go around. They don't
have to put earplugs in because hold on, it's not Friday. I can't hear music. I plug up my ears.
No, it is.
Is that how it goes?
Earplugs in. Yeah, earplugs in.
Oh my God.
TJ, did you ever hear of a singer named Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, I know Frank Sinatra.
Good. All right, good. All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Anything that he sang, anything.
My Way, that's a good one because you sing that song there.
Any of his
Luck Be a Lady
music.
Tonight. Is that an earlier song he had?
What is it? Which one?
Luck Be a Lady Tonight.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. TJ's heard all these songs because I played them.
Oh, there's
TJ. Can you name 2 songs Michael Jackson sang?
Beat It and Thriller.
Oh,
all right, good. All right, good.
Very popular ones. Billie Jean. Okay, I know the song.
Anything that's not on the Thriller album. Anything?
Hold on, we're all those songs on the Thriller album.
Yeah.
I named 3 songs and they're all on the same album. I don't know, to be honest with you.
All right, we don't have all night. Next comment.
River Curtis says, Greg, I heard you're from Merrick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Went to Calhoun. I'm from Belmore. And the reason I chose Ponyboy Curtis as my YouTube name is because Ponyboy is the fictional character I identify with the most.
Yes, I did not go to Calhoun. I moved when I was after I graduated 6th grade going into 7th, I went to Park Avenue Elementary School was where I went. And then I moved to Green Lawn and I went to Harborfields High School when I went to eventually I wound up going to Harborfields High School. When I was a freshman, Mariah Carey was a senior.
Wow.
Mariah Carey went to the same high school.
Mariah Carey was that old.
Yeah, she was, so if she was born, I guess in 68, she would have been born, or 69.
Wow. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she was a senior when I have absolutely no memory of her, but she was a senior.
TJ, do you know the actor who played Ponyboy Curtis in the movie The Outsiders?
Let me just pop it up here.
It's C. Thomas Howell. Next.
Yeah, no, I never would have got
I don't
that.
need you looking it up and then telling me.
Rob G said, "Can't wait to watch the Islanders hockey this season. Let's go Isles!"
I'm excited too.
I'm looking forward to it too.
I'll be more excited depending on what else happens this offseason. Fred D said, "Is TJ a deaf 3-year-old? Not deaf, but yeah, maybe my knowledge of pop culture is that of a 3-year-old." Pony Quarter says also, and Greg, do you play anything yourself? He said there he plays a guitar. I play 5-string bass and guitar. Have you ever listened to the band Two Man Advantage?
No, I never heard of that, and I never listened to that band. But yeah, I play a little bit of guitar just for fun, and I was fooling around with the whole garage band thing, just writing goofy songs and stuff. But I kind of stopped doing that for the past year because I've been just doing a lot of work with books and things. But maybe I'll go back to doing that at some point.
I think that's like a hockey-related band name.
I would assume so. 2-Man Advantage. Brett W also says, Greg, who was your favorite player in the Dynasty era teams?
Bossy was my favorite when I was younger. After doing the interview for this book, though, I may have to go with Nystrom, I think, because he was the heart and soul of that team. And also, of course, he scoring the famous goal in 1980. He also didn't take shit from anybody. He would always fight. There's a great clip from the 1980 Stanley Cup that you see a Flyer player picking on Ken Morrow, and you see Bob Nystrom swoop in and just start punching the guy, because that goes back to the 1978 series against the Maple Leafs, where the Islanders were totally bullied and pushed around. Going to that 1980 series, in the book, there's a discussion between Clark Gillies and also Bob Nystrom. They said there's no way anyone is going to push us around this year. We're playing against the Flyers. You're going to go up against this guy. I'm going up against this guy. It's going to be a total fight from beginning to end. We're not going to back down. And
now, I don't want to correct you on your book, Greg, but it was the Boston series.
Okay, you're right. You're right.
Now, see, I don't want to make you look bad, but I'm sure I've read. The content's probably a little fresher for me.
It was because I wrote it about 10 years ago.
And
right. The Boston,
it was Nystrom and Gillies and who was the other? It doesn't matter. But they were fighting. One guy would take Wensick. Gary Howard maybe went after Wensick, and then O'Reilly with Gillies and whoever, maybe Stan Jonathan was with Nystrom. But
the clip I'm talking about, I think it's Nystrom takes on what was that guy's name? Kelly, Machine Gun Kelly, is that his name?
Bob Kelly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Machine Gun
Battleship Bob Kelly.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Those Flyers, they had some pretty cool nicknames. I mean, nobody has nicknames anymore. There's no creativity. There's no individuality in sports anymore. I mean, Andre Moose DuPont, Dave the Hammer Schultz, Battleship Bob Kelly, the Big Stork Don Selesky, Big Bad Bob Daly. I mean, come on. Those are great nicknames. Now what do you got? Nothing.
Right. I wonder now if the reason we don't have Nick, you talk about the creativity that's around. I think everybody as a professional athlete is more vanilla than they used to be, solely because they get paid so much more money that it's all about protecting their brand, protecting their image. They don't want to be different. They want to be homogenized to where it's like, I am the same as everybody else. I feel like they worry if they do and they go too much and they become that individual that they are, they might jeopardize.
I think myself, it's because we've taken the fun out of youth athletics.
That could be it too.
Where kids would just play, by themselves, just a group of kids playing. That's how you get nicknames when you're a kid growing up. You're not going to get one when you're 25 years old. You're going to get them when you're a kid and you carry them all the way up. Where now it's like, okay, no, every sport has to be organized and, all that stuff. It's just the old days are just gone and done forever. It's a shame.
Well, you look at even like when it comes down to baseball, I think that's the one that you notice it the most. And you don't see a lot of crazy batting stances and pitching style. I mean, Tim Lincecum at the time period was so different than everybody else, but you don't see anything. It's not as individualized. Everything's kind of like carbon copied from person to person. And James F says Metallica and Greta Van Fleet at PNC Park tomorrow night. Pony Curtis also said, dude, Winona Ryder is still 100% doable. I go to get my freak on with her. Brian J said, I have a feeling that Barzal is going to get traded next season. Oof, you want to talk about misery. Yikes. Toby O'Connor says, let's go Mets. James F said, rest in peace to Ann Hetchy.
And Hesh.
Ann Hesh.
Damn.
What a crazy death.
She was on cocaine. I don't know what else. She wound up driving her car through somebody's house, caught on fire.
Oh, wow.
I think she died from burn related things. So yeah.
Worst way to go, probably.
Yeah. Not pleasant.
No.
TMC somehow got video of her coming out, of them wheeling her out on the stretcher from the car, and her trying to get off the gurney just as she was going into the ambulance, which was like, oh man, that's pretty freaky.
That's crazy.
Brett W says The Godfather 3 isn't a terrible movie, just doesn't live up to the first two.
True.
I haven't seen it in many, many years.
The first two were so good that, come on. It was the last was a money grab. And as Greg mentioned earlier, the fact that Coppola wouldn't, pony up a little bit of extra bucks for Robert Duvall. I mean, I think the original story was going to be Tom Hagen turning on Michael Corleone, which I thought would have been very interesting, because Tom Hagen was kind of like the emotional center a little bit after Don Corleone died. He was the guy who was
voice of reason.
Yes. And didn't believe, like when he says to Michael at the end of Godfather 2, do you feel like you need to wipe everyone out? He was had more humanity in him than Michael wound up having. I thought that would have been really interesting. Don't play it cheap. Filmmakers, don't play it cheap. Don't play it cheap on the actors. Don't play it cheap on the script, please.
I agree.
And then Pony Bacoda says, Greg, favorite pizza place and Chinese place on South Shore, Nassau County?
Well, when I lived in Merrick, there was a place called Zeke's Pizza, which was like super, super cheap pizza. I don't really remember it being that good, but in East Meadow, Pietro's Pizza, they have sesame seed crust. I think they were the first place to ever have it, and they're still around too. I haven't been there in a while, but Pietro's Pizza, located in East Meadow, is my pick for best pizza place in that area. Absolutely.
There it is. James F. said Rob Zombie directing the new movie The Munsters.
I heard it was brutal.
I saw. They have a sneak preview. It's really, really bad.
Oof.
Okay, I don't know if I should say this for tomorrow or not, but I saw 2 trailers, and I had to look. I'm like, okay, is this a joke? Are these parody trailers? Are these old actors just doing this as some type of joke?
Oh, God.
We can talk about it tomorrow.
We'll talk about tomorrow.
Or I can give a little tease for the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. So I just want to say Jaws and Twister. It looks like they're going to have new movies. And I watched them. I'm like, holy shit, this is bad.
Yikes. Brett W. said 2 was my favorite Led Zeppelin album.
That was a great one.
A lot of people.
I agree.
A lot of people number 2.
Yeah.
What a film said, been away for a bit and getting healthy. TJ remembered my name. Thanks, TJ. Love you guys. Thanks there, Sean. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, we miss you. It's been quite a while.
Absolutely. B40 says, I don't care what anybody says. They should have used the Dio Rainbow in the dark of the of Eddie Munson's scene instead of the Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
And James F said, come on, guys. Most underrated in my favorite album is Presence.
We talked about Presence. We talked about it.
Yep. And then Mary says, how strong was Johnny Bubba?
Bubba. Bubba is Bubba, not Bubba.
Yeah, what it is like I was saying before in my books, it's a reference to this book. Like what I do with my books, I try to include a uncommon person that I speak to, and there's a friend of the family who is a huge, huge fan of the Jets, who is affectionately known as Johnny Bubba, and I'm trying to find a picture of him. There's a picture of him in the book, and I spoke with him, and he definitely gives a very good kind of just feel of how it was to be a fan of the Jets. He went to every single Shea Stadium game back in the day. He's a hardcore fan of the Jets. So
I often tell a story about how my dad, we had season tickets. He had season tickets. We didn't. He did, and 3 of his buddies. from their, not the first year they were the Jets, not when they were the Titans. And it was usually just like a drinking thing for him. They'd leave at like, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning. He wouldn't get home till 2 or 3 in the morning. He'd drink on the way, watch the game, drink all the way back, and let's see, is that Johnny Bubba right there?
That right there is Johnny Bubba, and he's upset that a sandwich fell on the ground there. You see that?
Man.
I'm kind of upset by that too.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, Mary. I know you're not a regular listener to this show, so I need you to subscribe, hit the like button, and do it for TJ Grumpy Old Man.
There
Yes,
it is.
I'm shamelessly pushing this show and the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Sorry, that's what I have to do. But just to get back, one time he actually took me to see a game at Shea Stadium. I got like a 6-pack of Yoo-Hoos. They let you take them into the stadium back then.
Uh-huh.
And he just left me in the seats. I was there from like the middle of the first quarter until just before the end of the game. Him and his buddies were up drinking somewhere. I don't know. But I was just sitting there. I was behind the Patriots bench. I remember Joe Kapp was quarterback. And I think Al Woodall was a Jets quarterback. And the Patriots were really horrible. And Joe Kapp, I don't know how long he lasted in that game. Not too long. But I just remember that my first live NFL football game I watched by myself. So,
yeah, my dad once told me a pretty funny story about those Shea Stadium games would be brutally freezing, and he at the time was a huge Joe Willie Namath fan, and he bought a replica, the white fur jacket. Yeah, and he said he wore it there, and he said he froze his ass off because he was way up in like the upper bleachers. He said it was not a very fun.
It was always cold. The wind was always whipping in Shea.
Yeah, I was going to say whipping winds, exactly. Yeah,
I remember watching Mets games and freezing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. TJ, you won't know. You don't know.
No, I was about to say, I watched a few games in Shea Stadium. I haven't been to the new stadium.
Yeah, you had nice seats though, didn't you?
If I do recall. B40 says here, Led Zeppelin stole their songs for the first 3 albums from.
There is some truth to that. If you go on like YouTube and you do a search for that, people have put together things where, there are certain songs that Led Zeppelin totally ripped off blues artists. It's true.
I'm just gonna say, if you listen to anyone's music, they have stolen things from somebody else who came before them.
Inspiration. That's what they call it, right? Inspiration. Punibur Curtis says here, Greg, do you like how The Godfather, the book, they write about how big Sonny Johnson is?
How big Sonny Johnson is?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, the book I did not like as much as the movie. The book it drags on in certain parts, and there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't really pertain to even like the mafia or the story. So I definitely like the first 2 movies a lot more than the book.
Yeah, they streamlined the book. They cut out most of the Johnny Fontaine parts.
Yeah.
With the Lucy Mancini parts. They cut a lot of that out. And it was definitely good to do that for the cinema for certain.
Brett W says, Wearing and Tearing is a good song.
That's in reference to the Led Zeppelin album Coda, which was a bunch of songs that were just leftover songs. But my point was that the album Coda could have been a lot better if they put there were better songs they could have used. They could have put on Hey, What Can I Do? And they could have put on Traveling Riverside Blues and other songs as well, which they didn't do.
Yes, David K. I was lost there. B40 says Grumpy looks like a young Ron Jeremy in the first picture. Oh gosh. James S said, my girlfriend said you looked hot in that picture, Grumpy. She said you're not a grumpy, you're not grump, but a hunk.
Thank you, James, and thank you to your girlfriend.
Oh God, Fred D said he like Ron Jeremy. There it is. Chris Smith said here, song remains the song remains the same as the best Led Zeppelin album.
That is a great album too. That's a very underrated live album. When people talk about live albums of the 70s, they always talk about Cheap Trick at Budokan, Kiss Alive, but I always think Led Zeppelin Song Remains the Same never gets the credit that it should.
I thought it could have been better. I thought it could have been better. And I think we were only talking honestly about the original music albums. So.
Christmas said here, sorry to hear about your sister, Grumpy.
Yeah, it's been a while, but thank you.
Punibur Curtis says, Grump, You look like Josh Bailey in that shirtless pic.
Nice cheap shot, Pony Boy. Nice cheap shot.
Now, TJ, would you maybe want to pull up that picture again for people that may just be tuning in now that didn't get a chance to see that photo?
Hold on a second. Let's see. I'll pop it back up here. Give me a second. Grumpy, read that comment here and I'll get it pulled up for you.
Grumpy looks like every bully in every 80s teen movie. You know what? Okay, I can live with that. That's all right. I got no problem with that whatsoever.
Grumpy, you should be disappointed in yourself looking like that.
I'm not disappointed myself. Why would I be disappointed in myself?
Looking like a bully grump. Give me a sec. Let me see. Let me get that pulled up.
Well, that's just someone's opinion that I look like a bully. Everyone knows I'm a lover, not a fighter. Everyone knows that.
Everybody knows that you're grumpy. Give me a sec here. There it is one more time, Grumpy. Stroke Grumpy's ego just once more.
And it's funny because in that era, everyone, and Greg could tell you, maybe, they'd wear the shirts like the one where I was sitting in the warden's backyard and I had that white shirt on. Everyone wore their shirts like unbuttoned halfway down. Everyone did. And they had the chains around the neck, all that stuff. So I had another one that I could not find, which I was going to show you, but I couldn't find it.
You'll have to show it another time. James F. said, where's TJ's old pictures?
I have them all here.
Oh, God.
TJ, every picture was like this. He had his head to the side. Oh, wait.
Sunday Sand said, there you go. We've been waiting for confirmation. You are father and son. No, Sunday Sand, we did that earlier on. We did that earlier on about what was it, like a month ago, Grump?
Probably a month ago, yeah.
Yeah, I was going
to say, to be honest, I also, for the first few shows, I didn't understand, but then I was able to put two and two together. And then also when I look at you, TJ, and Grumpy, I sometimes see a little bit of a resemblance, like with the face.
And the baldness, yeah. It does run in the family. Scott L said, thank goodness there were no nudes with those pictures.
No.
Yeah, but now hold on a second. I just have one more quick question. Now the next question is, TJ and Grumpy, are you both in the same house now? No, okay.
No, James F says, TJ, can you show Benintendi's great catch
tomorrow?
Okay. Tomorrow, James F. Remind us.
Oh, if you have it, pull it up. I don't know. I don't care.
I had it pulled, but that's fine. We can show it.
Then throw it up. Throw it up. Okay. I'll read this comment where you pull it up. Go ahead.
Okay, let me pop the comment on as I'm pulling that up.
Ponyboy Curtis says, why you guys keep talking about mainstream dad rock? Bands that have already accumulated millions of dollars like Zeppelin and Halen. Who cares? Well, you want to know who cares? Me. That's who. That's why we're talking about that.
Looky there. This is the Benintendi catch here from today, Grump and Greg. Nice diving catch. Nice diving catch. It's his old team against the old Boston.
Did the Yankees actually win a?
They won 3-2.
Oh, good. All right, good. Very good.
Scott L said, I remember hearing a story that the Stanley Cup got damaged in Clark Gillies' pool. Any merit behind that? Do you guys know?
I don't think I have that. I don't think I came across that story in the book. That's one of the few stories that I did not come across in the book Dynasty.
I didn't remember it either.
And Brett W. says the Canadians never won 19 straight playoff series. In a different era, the Islanders win 5 or 6 straight cups.
You could also make the argument, people always say, the Dolphins are the only team that ever went completely. What were they, 14-0? Was that in 1972 or something?
17-0 the whole season.
17. All right, but then now that teams play longer, is that the same as when the Dolphins went undefeated? If a team was to go undefeated now,
I think the Dolphins only played 2 teams with winning records that year. Okay. So I mean, and like I said, you look at today's era in sports. For me, it's like before free agency and post free agency. It's way more difficult now because player movement is so prevalent, where back in the day it wasn't. I mean, you were drafted by a team, you played on a team, you stayed with that team until they let you go. All right, TJ, right. What's so fun?
No, it's just something coming up here. We got a few. Ponyboy Curtis says, talk about some underground bands that nobody knows about. Greg, how are you into 90s Riot Girl? I don't know.
Riot Girl punk scene. Well, Ponyboy Curtis, I'm glad you brought that up because in my other book, Grunge is Dead, I actually talk about the whole Riot Girl scene, and I interviewed members of some of those bands that you just mentioned. So, yep, I do appreciate Riot Girls and read about it in this book, Grunge is Dead. This was my 3rd book ever.
There it is. Grunge is Dead. David K says Primos. Yeah, I mispronounced it. And in TJ's mind, he says, "What is Rush?" I know it's a band. That's about the extent of what I know.
That's what happens when you're running late to get to work. You got to rush.
Christopher C said, "Greg Grumpy, a personal question for you guys. If you guys want the Islanders to have to move further on the island, does it mean I have to become a Rangers fan now?" I think he addressed that earlier. And then even if I like the Islanders more and I'm a fan from the Bronx, no, Christopher, you still.
But now let me actually pose a question. Say if in 10 years the Rangers move to Nassau Coliseum, then are we all Rangers fans?
No.
Mm-mm.
Eric Stratton, Rush chairman. Damn glad to meet you. That was Eric Stratton, Rush chairman. He was.
I know what that is a reference from Animal House.
That's right. TJ, did you know that? No.
TJ, did you know that?
No, so Brett W says, "I saw a Primus, or how do you pronounce that again?
Primus.
Primus.
Primus, freaking Primus.
Yes.
All right. When you have a vowel with a consonant and a vowel right after it, it takes the first letter takes the hard vowel sound. Okay.
What can I say? I didn't learn it in grade school. I forgot it, Crump.
It's
Anyway.
just reading 101.
Oh man,
Is it any wonder you were a football player? And here's the thing: it's not like TJ went to some dope school. No. We sent him to private school, and this is what we got.
There it is, Grumpy. How fortunate.
But like I said, he is half Polish. So.
There it is. I saw Primus open up for Rush at Nassau Coliseum on the Roll the Bones tour.
I was at that show, and also several other people that have asked questions, such as Fred Diekman, were also at that show as well. So several people watching this right now were at that exact show. It's true.
Scott L also said, "I remember hearing a story." Sorry, there it is, about Clark Gillies Pool. James F said, Primus. There.
You went right to Primus again.
Played at the Red Rocks, celebrating 25 years of Sound Park. Getty and Alex came on stage and played with them.
Yes, James, right now, if you put on Comedy Central, they're televising it. It started at 10 o'clock. They showing the performance.
All right, listen to me, James. You're not leaving this show. Just DVR it and continue to watch
DVR'd it. I DVR'd it.
Yep. Drew S said, did the Dynasty Islanders get their due respect in their time? Was it a foregone conclusion that they'd win the cup every year?
I think I was young at the time, so I just assumed the Islanders would win the cup every year. But like I said before, comparing it now, the media coverage, it was absolutely nothing like what it is now when a team wins a World Series or a cup or anything like that.
They were not supposed to beat the Oilers the first year they beat them to win 4 in a row.
Right.
Everyone said the Oilers were going to win, and I never thought they were going to lose going that 5th cup. I know they were banged up, but I never thought they were going to lose to Edmonton.
There's what we talk about in the book Dynasty. There's the whole theory, and actually Clark Gillies even mentions this, that to the day, I guess he sadly died, Clark Gillies, he could never understand why, for the Islanders trying to win the 5th cup, the NHL decided that year to make it the 2-3-2 format, which usually it wasn't that cockeyed. And then that the Clark Gillies says all he remembers is when the Oilers won that first game, and they won that first game on like a strange flukish goal. The final score was 1-0.
Yep.
He said it was like the Oilers just roll over and died for the second game. They didn't even show up because they realized, well, we already did what we had to do. We just got to bring it back now to Edmonton and win. And that's exactly what they did.
Yep.
Drew S said, Dynasty Islanders and music. I'm surprised TJ bothered showing up. Yeah. James F says here, why is it that the Nets fans sell out the stadium when there's a giveaway? They won't sell out every game. They're playing well in the first place. I don't get it.
Because they want free stuff.
Probably.
Ponyburger says, Greg, I believe that Jerry Nolan, a drummer for the New York Dolls and Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers in the 70s punk rock, is one of the most underrated American drummers of all time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he's a good drummer. I mean, the thing is, you think of guitarists and drummers, there's a misconception that how fast you can play or how technically precise you are on your instrument makes you good, but that's not the truth. For me, it's always how influential you are, how original you are, and also the quality of the songs. You take someone like, for instance, Eddie Van Halen. Of course, he could play fantastic guitar, but he wrote fantastic songs. So much so that TJ can name about 10 songs right now from
I
Van Halen.
can, and not from that. I can name about 10 or 12.
Could you name, besides Jump, which you didn't really know, could you name any Van Halen songs?
No,
Just one.
Yeah.
not a one.
They actually play a lot of Van Halen songs at like sporting events. I'm sure if you heard songs by theirs, you would recognize
I'd be like, oh yeah, I know that song,
Yeah.
but I couldn't tell you who's the
My actually, there's like 4 Van Halen songs, but my favorite's probably "Ain't Talking About Love." Is probably my favorite.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah, I've heard that song too. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of.
I know you have. I know you have.
Didn't they for a while play the song "Unchained" at most Islanders games when they
Yeah.
took the ice? Or am I thinking of another thing?
I don't know, but I know they played that song before.
Okay, maybe it was some other hockey team. I remember hearing the song "Unchained," which is probably
Everybody
one of my favorite Van
Wants
Halen songs.
Some.
Yeah,
And The Cradle Will Rock.
yeah, I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Hunter Curtis saying here, I doubt Grumpy knows about NYD or
New York Dolls.
New York Dolls.
I know about the New York Dolls, but not
Yeah.
Johnny Thunders.
They were a band that pretty much they were one of the punk rock creators. Them and the band The Stooges were helped create punk rock. They were a huge influence on one of Grumpy's favorite bands, the Ramones.
Yes.
know that?
I said, I remember the New York Dolls.
Yeah,
And I remember the Stooges. Johnny Thunders, I don't remember. Now you got to remember I'm a little bit older than Greg is. So, you know, for me, like I said, I love the Clash and stuff like that.
I love the Clash
And,
too.
you know, but then after that, you know, you get to be a certain age, at least for me anyway, and music dies.
Yeah,
I
me
don't
too.
listen to
Yeah,
anything new.
I'm the same.
I don't listen to any of it.
I'm the same way.
I mean, TJ probably knows more new music than I do.
I don't
Probably
know.
not.
Toby O'Connor says, I have a Nystrom bobblehead that he autographed at a meet and greet for season ticket holders. Oh, that's nice there. And James F. saying here, they got to stop with the pitchers between innings, umpires checking their gloves and hands. Do you think that the pitchers are going to put something on their hands and gloves? Come on, that's stupid. They do it every game.
Yeah,
and
they would do
shocks. They do it like, and I remember like, I didn't watch like a game, like, you know, when it's in between the innings, I don't really watch too much. Usually it cuts away. You don't actually see them doing that. I went to a minor league game and every single inning they're checking their hands and their gloves. And I'm like, God damn, I said, I forget they do that all the time now.
What about that stupid Yankees pitcher from a few years back that kept getting caught with putting the stuff on his neck? Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
Michael Pineda.
Yeah, and he was caught twice in the same season.
I mean, and it was so
Yeah,
so egregious. Like they
Yeah,
showed like a big big glob of paste on his neck. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's spider tack, Grump. Chris Smith said here, they were shafted at the 5th cup attempt with the way they changed that format is also what he comments in on saying.
Clark Gillies felt the same way.
Now, even today, what's this? It's not 2-3-2 now,
No, it's not. They only kept that for 1 or 2 years after that, and they went back to the normal thing. So that makes it even more preposterous. That a lot of the Islander players said, and they talk about it in the book Dynasty, how it was clear the NHL said it was enough with the Islanders winning Stanley Cups. They wanted the Oilers to finally get going.
I think they definitely wanted Gretzky.
Yeah, exactly.
To try to promote hockey, but the Islanders are really banged up.
They were.
And
a lot of people were banged up. Yeah,
but I still didn't think they were going to lose. But they were definitely.
I didn't either. I thought they were going to pull it out somehow.
Yeah.
David K said, "Let's see Greg play his guitar."
Yeah.
There it is.
I haven't built up my calluses on my fingers. I haven't been really playing that much.
Fred D said TJ would be safe around the Grizzly Bears as they'd assume he's already dead. He also said, James F said, go read the book on MTV VJ. I recommend it. I'm not sure.
I don't know if he's talking about my book. My book is called MTV Ruled the World: The Early Years of Music Video, and I interviewed a few of the VJs and a bunch of the members of Rush, Devo, a bunch of people I interviewed for that book.
Devo. You know any songs from Devo, TJ?
No, come on.
You would know definitely one song.
There's one song. Whip It. There you go.
When you did that, Chris.
Don't worry, I fed you the whip sound. Don't worry.
I know. Christmas said the Polish had a bear during World War II called Wojciech. Wojciech, and I think the soldiers fed him and played with him, and nothing ever happened. I don't know how anybody can play with a bear like that. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be down for that. James S said, listen to that Billy Squires first album. It's very good.
I think he's referring. Billy Squire put out a first album that was not a hit. He may be referring to the second album, which is called Don't Say No. I'm pretty sure that's the album he's talking about.
I think that had 3 big hits on.
He did 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah.
The first album was called Tale of the Tape or something. I don't know if that's what he's referring to. He's probably referring to the second album.
Yeah.
And James,
Oh yeah, Tale of the Tape. There you go.
And a Tuesday is the day that Elvis died 45 years ago.
I remember where I was when Elvis died. Remember exactly where I was, the time of day, what I was listening to when I.
Tell us. Go ahead. Tell us. I'm curious to hear about this.
I was in my mom's house. I was, let's see, it was 77. So I was like 15 and a half years old, not quite 16.
Mhm.
And I was in the den where you saw that picture earlier where we were sitting on that couch. We had a little portable AM FM radio on top of the countertop that was in the kitchen. And I was listening to WABC radio, and they broke in and said that Elvis, it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. And they said Elvis had died at the age of 42. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, 42. Well, I guess he was pretty old, because, when you're a kid like that, you think, now I'm like, oh boy, 42, that's young. The older you get, it's like, oh, well, 70. Well, that's really not that old.
Right.
The closer you get to those years, and I'll never forget it. Never forget it.
No.
It was like, people say they knew where they were when JFK got shot, or, where they were during 9/11.
Yeah.
And now I don't remember JFK, but I do remember where I was on 9/11. And it's just one of those seminal moments. And it just speaks to what he was, for what he was as an artist and what he meant to people in this country and around the world, that I try to explain to my boys, both of them. They have no concept of how big Elvis was. The Beatles were big, but Elvis was bigger.
Yeah.
And Michael Jackson was big, and Michael Jackson is the closest I could think in comparison to what Elvis was, the Beatles were in recent times, but still nothing like Elvis.
I think that's a fair assessment. I agree.
I mean, and I think now it's because of so much exposure on television, everything else. Times are just different. But he was
a lot more like there was definitely a lot more mystery about artists. Like, for instance, I interviewed Paul Stanley from the band Kiss about a year or two ago, and I asked him, could have Kiss pulled off hiding their masks now like they did in the 70s? And he said, absolutely not. There's absolutely no way they could have done it now with iPhones and everything else.
Yes. I remember, and that was a big deal when Kiss unmasked.
Yeah. Right.
It was a big
Grumpy,
deal.
I was going to ask you quickly, too. How would you describe what Nassau Coliseum was like in the early 80s, going to Islanders games when they were winning and everything?
It was like a family.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a family atmosphere. And I don't know if I might have told this story before. I wanted to tell the story about how a friend of mine, we waited in line to get, when Islander playoff tickets went on sale, you had to get there like, okay, Islander playoff tickets are going on sale tomorrow at blah, blah, blah time. So we would have to go to the stadium and wait outside. And we waited, I don't know, 6 hours before they opened up. And it's not like you say, okay, you're getting, they didn't sell them one round at a time. They just said, okay, this is the max amount of tickets that you could get. Like the most tickets that the most games they could play in a playoff season. So, okay, you had ticket 1, ticket 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 blah. We had the tickets that would have been against the Rangers in Game 7 of 1979.
Ooh.
And they wound up losing the Garden.
Yeah.
They lost in Game 6. And I mean, because I was geeked up to go see that one. And I said, and I often just even recently told the story how that loss didn't bother me as much as the Toronto loss the year before. The Toronto loss killed me. But that one, Davidson was just so good that year. So good.
Yeah, and in the book Dynasty, Claire Arbor says that was Al Arbor's toughest loss, the loss against the Maple Leafs in '78.
That's what I told TJ. I said, me and Al Arbor are a lot alike. Geniuses in our professions.
Ponyboy Curtis says, oh, look at me. I'm Grump. I know elementary facts about multiple platinum selling bands from 30 to 40 years ago. And Grump, do not lie to Greg. You don't know Dream Theater. It's after your time.
I didn't say I knew Dream Theater.
Okay. Frank D said, Ponyboy dropping truth bombs. And he also says, Ponyboy says, Greg, what are your thoughts on Porcupine Tree? I love Steven Wilson's music, but he's such a pompous jerk in interviews. You see what he said about Eddie Van Halen and how he feels about shredding.
Well, Steven Wilson, I interviewed for the website Songfacts. Again, if you go on songfacts.com, just do a search for Steven Wilson, and that interview will come up. That was from about 5 or 6 years ago. I think they're a pretty good band. I'm not that familiar with them, but talking about shredding, I mean, should I plug? I've done 30 books. I have a book about shredders, and it's called Shredders, and we talk about Eddie Van Halen.
What is
Steve
shredding?
Vai and Joe Satriani, and all
it's not like a paper shredder, TJ.
I was about to say, shredding is like
fast.
shredding on a guitar. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, like playing very fast and very, very technical. Exactly.
Okay, there it is.
Something you need not concern yourself with.
Exactly. Brett W says Namath has a lousy wig too. Oh man, I didn't know. Namath
I don't think he's got a wig.
And I'd say Geezer Butler is my favorite, either Geezer or Geddy Lee.
So our bass players, yeah, both of them are great. But I got to go with Les Claypool as my favorite.
There it is. David K says here, is anyone here depressed that this is what we're doing on a Saturday night?
Not me, because I'm actually very happy to be on with TJ and also Grump finally.
Yeah,
this
David.
is like a very, very big thing for me.
And David, you better make sure that you hit the subscribe button too.
Oh, Tony Curtis says, I know you wrote a book about, oh, Jesus Christ.
Primus,
Greg. LOL. That's why I asked, what made you pick over the Electric Grapevine as a title? That's one of my favorite songs of theirs.
The band chose that title. I had nothing to do with that title.
There it is. And Pony Curtis said that and Professor Nutbutter's House of Treats,
yes,
are the best songs off of the Tales from the Punch Bowl. Fizzle Fry is the best.
Yeah, he meant to say Frizzle Fry. That's their second album. Yeah, I agree. Frizzle Fry is one of their best, and also an album called Sailing the Seas of Cheese is a favorite of mine.
I'm not surprised that Ponyboy Curtis likes a band like that.
Oh, grumpy. James S. said, I'm sitting at the Nag's Head as I watch this, sipping on an ice cold Schmitz.
Schmitz in reference to the Islanders, the cover of the yearbook. Yeah.
SP said, I saw a comment which rationalizes trading away Atu Ratu by saying that they're 2 pieces away from winning a cup. So we need to trade him. Our fan base is delusional. No other way to put it.
Dare I ask who would put something like that out? Dare all you will.
Oh, I don't know who.
Yes, let's trade away whatever speck of young talent we have to go after more aged veterans for a team that's never going to win a Stanley Cup. That sounds like a bright move.
Oh, man. And Pody Burger said, Greg, do you prefer to drive on Hempstead Turnpike or Sunrise Highway, and why?
Well, Sunrise Highway sucks if you're driving on it during rush hour. I know that. I actually don't live in that area anymore. I live further out on Long Island now, but I used to love the Sunrise Mall, which just closed. When I was younger, that's where me and my friends used to go all the time. I saw a lot of classic movies there, such as Revenge of the Nerds and some other films. But yeah, I mean, both of them are convenient.
Well, now Sunrise Highway, at least where I used to live, no more traffic lights. It's all just, straight through.
I haven't even driven on Sunrise Highway since I moved. I moved out east about 5 or 6 years ago, and I mean I've been there back maybe once or twice. I was living in Wantaw for a while, and I was always on Sunrise Highway and Hempstead Turnpike back then.
Jesse B said Greg, 2 ideas for a book: the New York Islanders Brooklyn Barclay saga and the New York Jets Rex Ryan Rise and Fall.
Well, I mean that the whole Rex Ryan Rise and Fall is in this. So
there it is.
Let's say a book that you could look at. But yeah, I mean, those are actually 2 pretty good books. One book that I thought would have been actually 2 book ideas, which I wound up not doing, was the late 1990s, early 2000 Mets. That I thought would have been a decent book to do, but then I just it just kind of fizzled for me. And then, although I'm not a Rangers fan, Grumpy, you'd probably agree with me with this. If it was not for the Islanders in the early 80s, the Rangers probably would have went to a Stanley Cup and also probably won a Stanley Cup because they were actually very good in the early 80s. I was thinking about doing a book about the early 80s Rangers, but me being an Islanders fan, I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
When Herb Brooks was coach, Yeah, they were probably the second best team in the league for a couple of years.
They
just
created a
couldn't
lot of
get past
scares
us.
with the Islanders, especially in '84, where they almost beat the Islanders in '84.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get past us.
Yeah.
I've always wondered this, Greg, for authors like yourself. How often do you start a book and then determine to scrap the idea, or how often do you go through a process like that, or how far do you get into a book before you scrap it, if you do that often?
I'll be honest, I've never scrapped a book idea. I mean, it's like something I think out beforehand. So it's never really something that I would start and then just, if something's I'm not happy with something, I'll just work on it until I'm actually happy with it. So that's, but I'm actually lucky that I came into writing by accident. I took a job as a customer service rep with a music magazine, and I saw how easy it was to be a writer, and I started writing, which I probably should have known I would have been decent at writing, because I was always a good writer in school and very good with spelling and things like that. But in college, I just didn't know that's what I wanted. I didn't take any journalism courses or anything, which I totally regret, because I could have gotten started a lot earlier. But that's pretty much my story. Just it's funny how things happen in life, like some things that you think are a mistake in life, or things you weren't expecting, just suddenly come your way, and then your life course changes.
Yeah.
TJ, do you think that's going to help you filling out the food list that you have to send to Paige every week?
No. And James F said, I sent the bartender to go get the ladder so he can reach, what is that? The Macallan?
The Macallan. That's a type of whiskey, I think, that Neil Peart from the band Rush used to drink.
Ah,
That's
there
kind
it
of an
is.
obscure Rush reference.
See, James knows a bunch of stuff here. There's a lot of inside info going on this.
I was about to say, this is all like a different language to me. SP said, how do we let the insider get away with saying that Nazem Kadri to the Islander is confirmed for weeks, and then a report comes out that he's still talking to teams, and they're still just radio silent?
Because they don't know anything.
Who even knows that's true? That could be bullshit. Who knows? No one knows.
Yeah.
I feel strongly that Kadri is still coming to the Islanders. If I'm putting money down and you had to tell me, hey, you got to put down either he signs with the Islanders or not, I feel very confidently that he's signing with the Islanders.
Okay.
It just has Lou's MO written all over it.
I think he winds up with the Islanders too. Just hopefully it's not for 7 years.
That's
well,
really be
we couldn't sign him for 8.
How long is what's his name signed for? Lee? What's his contract?
Was he got still 4
more years?
4 years left. So
he was actually really good before he got injured. Then he's, I don't know, it just hasn't been this. Well, I mean, it was really just like last year. I mean, there's always a chance he's going to bounce back and be really good this year, but last year was just not good at all.
If I was betting money on him bouncing back at the age of 33, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did have the good year before he did get injured. He was having a resurgence year, I'd say. Yeah, 31 years old, having a little bit of a bounce back year, and James F says here, "What's Greg drinking out of that flask?"
He's drinking some good old fashioned H2O.
There it is. There it is. Fred D also says here, "What's a better bang for your buck, DraftKings or the Carousel?"
I guess I'd say DraftKings because they're our sponsor.
Punter says, you guys have a legitimate guest on today, somebody credible who knows their shit. Who was that guy last week? Grant. No, don't talk bad about Grant. I love all the guests we have on. He was more boring than Phil. 50 times more boring than Phil. No, Ponyboy Curtis. Play nice. David K also says here, I definitely like how I definitely like to
know if TJ generally likes this guy, Greg.
I like Greg. There's never been a guy on this show or a girl on this show who I'm like, I don't like them. I like Greg. Goon Goon says, I love this podcast. What's up, Goon Goon? How are you?
There's somebody on this podcast I don't like.
I wonder who that could be, Grumpy.
It's not Greg.
Oh, I guess it'll be up for the fans to discern. Ponyboy Curtis says, TJ, shut the fuck up. Your favorite is Ponyboy Curtis, Tony Cheese, and Empire State. So Frank, I love everybody on the show. Come on, Ponyboy, you know that. Jesse B said the butt fumble was Mark Sanchez's Billy Buckner moment.
I say it's even worse.
Devin S says Greg is cool.
Thank you, Devin.
It's another one of Greg's friends.
E40 says Nirvana, most overrated band in history.
I beg to differ. I love Nirvana. That's all I'm going to say.
Gotcha.
I think they might be overrated, but they were the first of the grunge movement who broke through.
We have to also thank Nirvana for wiping out horrible hair metal, which I hate. Well, I see that it's not that they wiped it out; they killed it off for a while, and then it sadly came back stronger than ever. That now to the point that Motley Crue can play stadiums.
It's funny. You don't see any new groups really go on tour, do you? Because they're just not any good.
I have a friend who has a daughter in high school, and like my friend was saying, hey, back in high school, they used to have Battle of the Bands, and his daughter was like, what's that? Like, there's no bands in my high school.
No.
David K also says, now I realize Greg's name is not Prato, it's Prato. Yes, I mispronounced his name at the top.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. I learned my last name was from a town in Italy. It's pronounced Prato in Italy, but here I like to just say Prato. But don't worry about it. I'll take either way.
Matthew C says it depends on what you get back from Matt Barzal. If a trade of him would be beneficial. Ugh.
Let's sign a 32-year-old to a 7-year extension and trade our 25-year-old center for what?
I don't know. I've never seen Lou win any trades when he's trading away assets. That would make me scary. I saw him turn a top pairing defenseman, Devon Taves, into 2 second-round picks, 2 late second-round picks, might I add. Fred also says here, TJ hasn't heard of Ghostbusters. No, I've heard of Ghostbusters. I've seen the film. And
what is the best line in Ghostbusters, TJ?
I couldn't tell you.
It's when they're in the mayor's office and they say, hey, is this true what they're saying about all these entities? He's like, we had everything under control until Dickless over here shut off the control grid. He goes, is that true? He says, and Bill Murray goes, yes, it's true. That man has no dick.
Oh.
That was the best line in the whole movie.
Scott McCoy Music Channel says, Greg Prato is an ultimate champion.
Thank you,
James
Scott
said,
McCoy.
I expect a lot of new subscribers to this show tonight.
Hopefully.
That's what I hope.
James
I hope you gave them the heads up that they have to subscribe.
I was quickly going to ask, like, do you guys ever reach out to the Islanders organization to have Islanders players on or anything?
They hate us.
Hold on, Greg. No, you might. Yeah, they do not
hate us. They listen to us and they hate us. We're too mean. They don't like how I make fun of AJ Malesko's hair. And my response is comb it.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yes, we definitely have gotten that from people inside that they did not like Grumpy saying anything negatively about her appearance on air. And
I think my hair looks better than yours.
I was going to say, I think she's actually good. She has some good points to make during the broadcast.
Oh, we like AJ Malesko, but it's just Grumpy had made fun of her hair a few times, and it was funny. Then they started coming out and they talked about how Butch Goring and people would kind of joke around with her about her hair after a time period after that. So I'm not sure. I don't think Grumpy forced that into the conversation, but I did think it was odd. I did think it was kind of humorous.
Just 2 quick comments on AJ's hair. Don't make it look like you comb it with a rake, first of all. And number 2, if my hair looks better than yours, you need to work on your hair.
Grumpy, that's saying something, Grump, with the limited.
It is saying something.
James F. saying, TJ, do you remember the 4 Beatles? I remember George Harrison's one, John Lennon. I know Ringo, and then
Ringo what? Ringo what?
I don't know Ringo. And then Paul Star, right?
God. No. Try them again.
No,
say them again.
George Harrison,
who you never knew before, so that's progress.
Because I know because I remember when Grant Hakeem was on the show, he mentioned, I was like, that's the one I always forget. I remember John Lennon, he was shot and killed. I remember Ringo Starr.
Right.
Was it Ringo Starr?
Yes, you got it.
Okay. And Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we gave you the second chance because you said Ringo, I don't know, and Paul Starr.
Okay, there it is. I didn't cheat either, so that was just luck. Fred D said, how about TJ not knowing what a guitar is? No, I know what a guitar is. Scott McCoy Music Channel says, great show. And David K says, I'm curious if TJ was Joe, who is that? Benigo's classmate in the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I assume that's a dig, but I'm not sure. Who's Joe Benigo?
He's a sportscaster that retired, but now he just came back.
He's got
That's
a
right.
mustache.
He's coming back here.
Yeah.
He's coming back. He's like in his 60s or 70s.
Yeah, he's also very famous for his like Jets rants because he's a huge Jets fan, but he's been tormented for many, many years. So it's actually pretty funny when he goes off on the Jets.
Oh man. Ponyboy Curtis says, Greg, what's your username? Who do you comment under?
I'm gonna have to go with a no comment with that.
You'll
Now,
have to go under
I'm gonna tell you what,
anonymity.
the more I thought about it, Greg has actually initially commented with his name.
I don't remember that, but fair
Neither
enough.
did
I think so. I remember
Possibly.
Greg,
It's possible.
Greg, but I think it was a D, not a T. So maybe it was somebody else. I don't know.
But
But we'll never know. Maybe that's his alias, Greg Prato. So we won't be able to figure
Greg
it out.
Prato. Tony Cheese says, by the way, Drew hasn't done jack shit to help the channel. Okay, well, we know it's all Tony Cheese right now for the Clip channel. Tony Cheese deserved the love and the plaudits. That's for certain. Pony Burger says, TJ, have you ever heard of a singer called Johnny Fontaine? It's the singer that's supposed to represent Frank Sinatra in The Godfather. Johnny.
Oh,
Fontaine.
good.
You got lucky. You got lucky only because I talked about it today on the show.
Oh, Brett W says, Greg, you might know my cousin. She went to the same high school at the same time. And Pony Burger says, Greg, get the fuck out. I went to Park Ave as well. Laughing my ass off. And then Theala says, I have a question for TJ. You expressed disappointment in the direction of the Islanders and are taking with signing Nazem Kadri. How do you feel if they win a cup once in the next 4 years? If they win a cup, I have no problem at all with the moves they make. I have no problem at all about mortgaging off the future to win a cup. Now, if you actually win, I just feel like the chances of us winning the cup are so slim, even with mortgaging off the future. So I just feel like we're throwing good money after bad.
I can't believe we actually had a hockey question tonight.
It's good. It's different. It's different. We're talking about the
No,
Dynasty.
I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised as a hockey question. That's all.
Pony Curtis says, I used to get wasted all the time in that schoolyard. I went to Martin Ave and Newbridge. All my buddies went to Park. We would smoke weed and drink in that schoolyard 24/7. Park Avenue Deli was chill too.
Park Avenue Deli, I remember that. Yeah, there's a great place, Pony Boy, you'll remember, called My Hero, which is still around. They have a famous sandwich called the Champ.
That sounds now TJ's ears are perked up.
Man, I'm hungry.
Food? Yeah,
I'm hungry. Pony says, walking up to Jerusalem.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Grumpy. You read that.
Nope, go ahead.
And Belmore Avenue, five-way intersection to get more beer from the Smelly Deli. Man, dude, those are the days, early days.
Yeah.
John McIsaac saying, Ross the Boss Johnson. And Wade F saying, I went to Jerusalem Avenue Middle School in Belmore. There we go. A lot of people from the same area.
Nice.
And James F. Sayer saying, TJ, is it time for you to go to the bathroom? Yeah, it was. That's where I had to jump to. SA said, Greg Prato stated that the Islanders' power play has sucked since 1993. Will Nazem Kadri be able to change this trend if he signs this year?
Interesting point. Time will tell, I guess.
I was about to say, he's done well. He's done well in the power play. You look at numbers. He's always been a guy who's produced in the power play. But shit, I'm not sure it's enough, though, Grump. I think more of the impact and the maturation of Noah Dobson improves the power play than the signing of a Nazem Kadri, because I think, right, I'm very bullish. I think that, Noah Dobson's game might have a little bit of a slump in some aspects, but I think regarding his confidence in his, him being the power play quarterback, I think that's only going to be improving over the next few years.
For me, you have to move. Let's say Josh Bailey's off the power play now, right? There's no way he can be on the power play. It's the wrong mix of guys until they find the right mix. I mean, Kadri should help. Anders Lee, okay. I don't know. We just don't have super talented power play guys. Are we going to give Wallstrom a legitimate shot to be the trigger guy on one side? I don't know. I mean, that's what we should do. You'd want to have the guys who with a shoot first mentality out there. If you're going to have two guys who are going to pass the puck in Dobson and Barzal, everyone else should be, I'm shooting the puck. In my opinion, anyway. I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know.
Hopefully all the young guys get more of a chance this year.
Yeah, we'd like that.
Yeah.
I think a guy like Wallstrom, hopefully the confidence, that coach is going to show him, will reciprocate on the ice. That's best case scenario for him. And that's a guy who had power play production early on last year when things were looking a little more rosy for him. And as again, I feel like he kind of got beat down as the season went on. You saw him just completely taken out of the power play equation. I think that if you looked at the 5-on-5 production, this is what a lot of people like to say. 5-on-5 goal scoring, I think we were top 10 in the NHL. Our power play was hideously bad. And that's bad. Yep, and that's one of the pieces why people always want to solve that, and where do the puzzles fit? Where do the puzzle pieces fit together? I think a guy like Romanov does help in transition in 5-on-5 play. Noah Dobson is going to have to really take a step forward, and Nazem Kadri you'd figure is a step up over Josh Bailey, but so would a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom receiving consistent time. So we have pieces internally, and we can also find an outside the organization piece to help. But solving the power play is a major issue. David K says, "Grumpy, is that a Picasso behind you?"
No.
Meatball Parm says, "Most underrated album, The Beatles is Revolver."
The Beatles.
Beatles. You can't really say any Beatles album is going to be an underrated album because they're the most famous band of all time.
I didn't know what Revolver was, but again, I probably wouldn't. The only Beatles album I know is Abbey Road, just because it's what is it, Abbey Lane or Abbey Road or something
Abbey
like
Road.
that. Abbey
Did
Road.
you ever hear of an album called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band?
No.
I know.
I assume like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds on that one.
Just say yes to that from now on. Just say
yes, of course I have.
You've heard it. Just say you've heard it.
And Tony Cheese said, "Nah, the Killers, Sam's Town is the most underrated." I don't know what that is. I assume that's another band or another album. B40 said, "Fireman Ed stinks."
I remember trying to reach out to Fireman Ed to be interviewed for the Sack Exchange book, and he wouldn't even return my email, which is kind of funny.
I can personally say I don't know anything about Fireman Ed's personal hygiene, so I cannot either confirm or deny that he stinks.
Tony Cheese says, "I was at the Butt Fumble game 4 rows behind Fireman Ed." Oh, man. Tony Cheese says, "Grump has a bear written all over him. Somebody should make a Grinder profile of him and see how many hits he gets." Grumpy, you know what that is?
Grinder. That's like finding out girls, right?
No. That's for homosexuals. That's for men.
It's for gay guys.
A bear means I think you're the aggressor. You're the aggressor.
I think also a bear means that you're like a hairy guy too, as well.
Okay.
There it is, Grumpy. You've got bear written. Got bear written all over you. Tony Cheese says, "How about when TJ and Grump had to do a broadcast from different places, but they were obviously in the same house in different rooms?" So when we did the live,
I think that was once.
We were never when we did the live stream, we were always separated. That was the way we were able to record because we were never together. Once we did like the live stream and the podcast with the view format, we were never in the same area.
Now, I was asking quickly. I had also a theory once I kind of put 2 and 2 together that you guys are father and son now. Is it that you guys live far away? You do this podcast to kind of keep in contact with each other?
Yes,
that's exactly.
Wow! So I totally hit the nail on the head with that.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't do it for anything else but just spend time together and to talk with fans and talk with people, because I don't talk sports and I don't talk Islanders where I am, and I know Grumpy doesn't either. So gives us a way to connect to other people.
Doesn't listen to music. Does nothing.
There it is. But SA also says, "If the Islanders win a cup in the next year or 2 with Kadri, will Greg write Dynasty 2?
I mean, yeah, I would absolutely love to, but I don't know how easy it is to get current Island. What's funny is I was able to get a lot of the old Islander players that were legendary hockey players, but it would probably be more difficult to get the modern day players. Well, I mean, it also makes more sense because they're playing and they have training and other stuff, whereas the old guys are all they're retired sitting around. So
here's the thing, Greg. I don't think you need to worry about sharpening your pencils anytime.
Yeah. I don't see the Islanders having a second dynasty anytime soon.
No.
Sadly. I wish they would, but
oh man. And they got a comment here from Wade F saying Roland Melanson is the third best goalie in Islanders history behind Smith and Resch. Severely underrated.
Yeah, Rolly the goalie.
Melanson and Smith shared the Vezina Trophy in '82, I think, as a top goalie combination. Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal.
Melanson took over for Chico Resch. He filled in it. He was the backup, but he was really very underrated.
Also, I think in the year '83, he played the majority of the games during the season, and they saved Billy Smith for the playoffs, and he was phenomenal in the playoffs. Billy Smith.
Yeah. Fred D says here, can't we get Stu Horowitz in here to weed out some of the troublesome commenters? I don't know who Stu Horowitz.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a very obscure Greg Prato reference to my whole high school career. I don't know if anyone else is really going to get that.
Okay, gotcha. And Greg, did you see the movie Pistol the Sex, or what is that?
Pistol the Sex Pistols story.
Gotcha. Also, have you seen the unseen footage of Kiss and Aerosmith on YouTube?
I have not watched the Sex Pistols thing, even though I love the Sex Pistols. I saw a clip or two of it. It seemed not that great, but I've heard people say it was good. And yes, what happened, what he's talking about with Kiss and Aerosmith a few weeks ago, someone got a hold of a bunch of Kiss footage that no one ever saw from the 70s, and they started putting it on YouTube. And then maybe Aerosmith saw what was going on with that, and the actual the people that were doing that with Kiss wasn't the actual Kiss band. It was fans of the band doing that. And then Aerosmith, I think, saw what was going on with that. And then the actual band Aerosmith is now going through their vaults and putting out some pretty cool things. They just posted something from 77 and also I think 89 or 90, which were pretty cool concerts. So yes, I give it a thumbs up.
So I guess we can't say that it's unseen any longer.
Mikey Bomber says, who are the Islanders getting rid of, Bailey or Beauvillier? I would assume Bailey's the one being shopped.
Beauvillier's younger, so you want to hold on to him, but he probably has more value to trade.
Yeah, and again, Tommy B came on the show last week and said the Islanders maybe are still trying to be involved in a guy like JT Miller as well. The grandiose plan is bringing in JT Miller and Nazem Kadri this offseason with a signing of Sonny Milano and shedding a lot of players. I don't know. Sounds a little bit, it sounds unlikely with all the moves and pieces that would have to fall into place. Just so many things can go wrong. I would probably say that the most extravagant we might get is a Kadri and then maybe moving a piece like Josh Bailey away and giving away assets to get rid of Bailey.
Maybe Lou spilled some juice or Metamucil on that piece of paper.
So
he dropped into the trash can that Tommy picked up.
So it made everything obscure to read. So he's only getting little half pieces like would not do this or something. Scott L says everybody wants some used to be was used in Better Off Dead with John Cusack back in the 1980s movie.
Yeah, that was back those 80s movies were all pretty good.
Grumpy, today was 40-year anniversary since Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Great movie.
Wow.
Was that the one where he's a hitman or something?
Oh, what?
What the ones where Cusack?
Okay, all right. No. That's Grosse Pointe Blank. Totally different movie. Okay.
Got the actor right there, right?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He wasn't even in, John Cusack. That was and the best scene in that is Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool.
Yeah.
But that was Judge Reinhold.
Right.
Sean
or TJ, do you know the character named Jeff Spicoli?
No.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
You're wasting your time.
Okay.
Sean Penn. You've heard of Sean Penn, right?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
He played Jeff Spicoli.
Jeff Spicoli. He
won a whole bunch of money, just to bring it back to music, for saving Brooke Shields at the end, and he blew $50,000 reward by hiring Van Halen to play his birthday party.
Oh, Mike Bombers says, should the Islanders trade Varlamov to Vegas? That's been a lot of the rumor.
Yes, trade him. Get rid of him. Yes, unload him.
But the only thing is, who the hell is going to be the Islanders' backup goalie then? Do they even have a guy who's a worthwhile backup goalie?
It doesn't matter.
Plug and play anybody, I guess.
You could save $5 million by moving him. Maybe you get, I don't know what you'd get. It depends on what you get. You're not trading for a 5th round pick.
The reason
because one thing I learned from watching the playoffs last year is that some of that goaltending I saw was absolutely atrocious by some of the other teams. So goaltending is very, very important,
Yeah.
He's a backup making $5 million a year.
Yeah, it's true that it's a bad look that he's making more than the starter.
Yeah, that's not good.
Well, and you've got Robin Lehner, who's out with that season-ending injury already. So that's why a lot of speculation goes around with Vegas maybe trying to acquire a goalie. They've got a market to acquire a goalie. They're in win now mode also.
Let's say Vegas offers you a 1st round pick for Semyon Varlamov, how can you say no? for a backup
Absolutely, yes.
goalie, then you just sign a backup. There's still guys out there. Sorokin's going to get the lion's share of the starts anyway.
Sorokin can start, 55 plus games.
Yeah.
You don't need him to play but 30 or less games for, your backup netminder. And again, we've got fantastic goalie coaches. What's to say that we can't string together a guy who has struggled a little bit to be more than an average or an above average backup goalie?
Yeah.
That's all we're looking for.
Maybe bring back Rolly Melanson.
Drew S said, "Oh my God, you look like TJ in that picture." Sorry, Grump.
I know. Thanks, Drew.
SA says, thoughts on Tommy Wingles? He's towards the tail end of his career. I don't even think he's playing in the United States anymore. I don't think he's playing in the NHL anymore. He used to be the old forward. I think he used to play for the Bruins and maybe the Sharks too, Grump.
I remember him, the Sharks, I think.
Yeah, the Sharks. I mean, he's a guy who was kind of just like a journeyman. He had a few years carved out with the Sharks, and I don't even think he's playing in the NHL anymore. Let me look that up here. Tommy Wingles. I haven't thought of a name like that in a while. SA said, is TJ going to accept any hockey-related questions? I thought it was a hockey podcast. Yeah, absolutely, SA. We'll accept what comes in, man. James F. said, it was so easy sneaking into an Islanders game back in the day at the Coliseum. My first Islanders game was versus the Blue. Who is that? Versus the
Mike
Blue.
Liute.
Mike Liute. I remember that name.
Was in goal for the Blues. As I was going to the game, my brother was driving, and Tom Sawyer came on my brother to ask if you know who that is. It was a band called Rush, and I was hooked.
He's talking about a song called Tom Sawyer by the band Rush.
Gotcha. He was hooked there. Sausage is better than Blind Illusion.
That's a reference to Primus.
TJ, you're going to think that sausage is definitely better than Blind Illusion, because that's usually TJ can either have sausage or Blind Illusion is whatever's laying in the back of his refrigerator.
Honestly, I didn't. I thought they were both two. I thought they were bands or something. Michael B said, late to the party, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on Adam Jones and Danny Carey of Tool.
Fantastic. Great band. I saw them not long after 9/11. They played Madison Square Garden. I think it may have been the first rock concert at MSG after 9/11, and I was absolutely blown away. It remains one of the best arena shows I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, fantastic.
Greg's SA says, Greg looks like me, Ben.
I think he meant to say Mr.
Bean. Oh, Mr. Bean.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I've actually heard that.
Oh, Mr. Bean. And David K says, Grumpy, do you think that Greg P planted some insiders to comment tonight?
Absolutely.
I did tell my friends to, join and maybe click like and also start to, subscribe to the show.
Just subscribe. That's all. I don't care.
James F. said, Greg, have you read History on Heavy Metal?
Yes. I know the book he's talking about. Yes. A good book.
And Pony Curtis says, sailing the seas of cheese, never mind. Oh,
he's saying sailing the seas of cheese is equal to Nevermind. He's saying that it's a overproduced album and overrated. Not as good as their lesser known stuff, but always cited because it break the record. I disagree because it has the song Tommy the Cat on that, which is a great song. And Grumpy, I was going to say, if you want to hear great bass playing and it's kind of like Frank Zappa-ish sense of humor, you should check out Primus's early material. You may like it.
I tell you what, I'm going to try out Primus just to see if I can pronounce the name correctly.
God almighty. And then Shooter Puck Hockey says here, thoughts on the Fisherman jersey potentially coming back. Greg, what are your thoughts? We've shared it. We like it, but Greg.
Yeah, I was going to say, why not? I mean, I guess the Islanders are paranoid that if they bring it back, they're suddenly going to suck again. But, you can't go through your life being paranoid and believing in superstition,
Could you imagine if let's say we don't make the playoffs this next year? I know there's going to be a certain sect of
blame it on the jersey.
Blames it on the jersey. They'll blame it on the jersey, not the players, and not the freaking.
They wear the jerseys like 4 times a year. It's just all it is to make money by selling new jerseys. Come on.
Pony Picker says, TJ, can you do a poll about the fans who would rather have the comments read by you or Grump? The fact that you have to read them and you can't read. I know, Pony Boy. That's what gets the reactions, though.
Hey, here's the thing. we're trying to increase TJ's literacy. That's why we have him reading the column.
Yeah, exactly. Like when they go over the literacy level, I'm still in that of a middle schooler, so we're trying to work our way up to high school. Michael T. said,
gentlemen, let me just take a break. I'll be back in a minute. Okay.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Michael T says, good evening, fellas. So I heard the Islanders are getting Nazem Kadri and then trading him to Toronto with Bailey and Varlamov for William Nylander. And then we're trading Barzal to St. Louis for Tarasenko.
No, why would you sign Kadri to trade him?
They're not going to. He's not going to agree to that either. We give every single free agent we sign a no trade clause. So I heavily doubt that. Absolutely doubt that. Shooter Spuck Hockey said, I would love to see Josh Bailey as a guest on this show when he retires for Grump to pick apart. Oh, man.
You know what? It would be fun. We would have a lot of fun. If Josh would let himself have fun, I'd love to have him on here because we'd have a ball.
Ponyboy Curtis says, if Josh Bailey came on a show in years to come, Grumpy would become timid. He would tuck his tail between his legs. Oh, man. And he also says,
not true, because I would tell him everything I said about him, but he'd have to have a sense of humor about himself. I mean, everything I say is with humorous tones.
He goes ahead and corrects it. He said he tuck his tail between his legs like a timid little puppy, going on about how the Islanders legend.
Oh my God.
Going on about how he's an Islanders legend, saying nothing to offend him.
Oh,
no. Freddie flip flop.
Here's the thing, Ponyboy Curtis, you've been watching this show long enough to know that's not me.
Oh man, you would be doing that where you start going like,
I would come on. No, this is exactly the same thing with Average Andrews. I said, I'm going to tell you right up front, I've been dumping on you for years. Are you cool? Are you cool with me saying that your mom gives you a sippy cup along the boards? I'd say it before because I wouldn't want to embarrass the guy, honestly.
We always like if we're asking an ex-Islander on, we usually
always ask him
what you would not. Is there anything you do not like to talk about? Is there something you want to also cover? We kind of make sure we have those outlines because we don't want to bring something up and make them look like Shooter Spuck Hockey says, Greg is the man. I'll have to say that loud so maybe you can hear. Greg's the man. I do feel that the Islanders will be better this year than last year. However, I'm skeptical on how Lambert will be able to handle the pressure. I do feel like the young kids will take a step up, though, too. You and I are in agreement here, Shooter Spuck Hockey.
It's just how much of a step back the veterans take.
That's how it seems. What type of step back are we going to see? I think that we will see a step forward. And those young players, how significant will that step forward be? Greg, Shooter Spuck Hockey wanted to let you know you're the man. And Ponyboy Curtis also says here, he says he'd rather hear Doug Gilmour ringing out.
David Gilmour.
Oh, man, I'm going hockey. David Gilmour ring out one note for 45 minutes with emotion than listen to, oh, God.
Wingate Malmsteen.
Ingve Malmsteen is how it's produced. Pronounced, I mean.
There it is. And Pony Curtis says, Steve Wilson says that he hates shredding, laughing my ass off. He says it takes the creativity out of music and turns it into an Olympic sport.
I see his point. Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, like there's certain guitarists that could play fast. For instance, Eddie Van Halen could play very fast, but he could also write great songs. So, and then again, Kurt Cobain could write great songs, but couldn't play fast. John Lennon could write great songs, but couldn't play fast. It all depends, for me personally, the quality of the songs that they're playing.
James F says, Greg, do you listen to Eddie Truck's show?
I was supposed to say Eddie Trunk is what he meant to say. Not only do I listen to it, I've been a guest on it on his show several times. If you do a search on YouTube for Greg Prato, Eddie Trunk, you'll be able to hear or see a few of my appearances.
There it is. And Michael T. And I assume now Eddie Trunk, is he more music oriented? I assume.
Yeah, he hosts shows on Sirius regular radio, and he also had a TV show called That Metal Show, which was a pretty popular show for a while when VH1 Classic was on, but that channel got changed or went out. I forget what happened to it, but that was a pretty popular show that he was a co-host on for a while.
Okay, gotcha. I was about to say, because I'm unfamiliar. Michael T. says, Roland Melanson was not better than Kelly Rude or Glenn Healy.
Kelly Rudy, I think he meant to say. Well, I mean, Roland Melanson won a Vizina trophy with Billy Smith. Those other guys didn't. So
Kelly Rudy was pretty good. Glenn Healy for the Islanders, no, I don't think he was up to those two guys. He had the great 93, though.
Pudding Critter said, Greg, I know all about My Hero. Laughing my ass off. That place is the jam. They're not open in the winter. What is that?
He's talking about the sandwich place called My Hero, which is in Merrick.
Oh,
gotcha.
gotcha.
He says, I know all about My Hero. That's what he's talking.
Yeah, if I could understand how to read, I would have put the right inflection on that. But he said they make so much money in the summer. They don't have to be. A line is always around the block.
Always around the block, and their thing is that you can only pay with cash. You cannot pay with credit card. But yeah, the Champ sandwiches there, they give you a huge amount of meat in their sandwiches, which is funny enough. I have been a pescatarian for the past few years. I mean, I don't know if that's a political thing where you talk about dietary needs or whatever, but I have not eaten a cold cut in about 3 years or 4 years. But back when I was eating meat, I used to eat quite a bit at My Hero. The Champ was my favorite.
Is it one of those places too where they only have cash, but they've got an ATM machine conveniently located right outside the shop, where the owner also owns the ATM machine, so he's double dipping over there. So when you have to go ahead and take your cash out, you're getting your transaction fee. Oh, you gotta love that. Gotta love that.
As you drive by, as someone who doesn't eat meat any longer, do you get the shakes when you see? You know.
I do miss the days of that, and the nothing beats a 2 a.m. White Castle hamburger every so often. But
too much onions for me. Too many onions.
I've never been in a spot where they ever had White Castle.
TJ, you would probably order 50 White Castles.
There used to be a White Castle on Hempstead Turnpike not far from Nassau Coliseum, because I remember my dad was kind enough to take me and my cousins to see AC/DC back in 1983 at Nassau Coliseum, and coming back on Hempstead Turnpike, we stopped for a late night treat at White Castle.
AC/DC, yep. And I remember on the way to Wantagh from where we lived, we passed White Castle all the time. I cannot remember the name of the road. But I see the building. I see it.
Brett W says Vegas has no goalie. It should be Varlamov. I will be interested to see if that catches steam, because Lou has made it known that, hey, no interest in moving Varlamov. You know, we want to be able to keep the tandem. At least that's the rumors out there, and I will be very interested to see if now that maybe the price on the head of a guy like Varlamov has increased, will that sway Lou Lamoriello to move him?
Hope so.
I do too. And Wade F says, Greg and Grump, do you remember the bar Nystrom's in Westbury, which eventually turned into High Fives?
I think I do remember that, but I was still too young to go into bars, but I think I do remember that.
I do not.
Okay.
Michael T says here, can you name the 3 huge celebrities that played the 3 stoners that walked into the burger joint and took their T-shirts off?
I mean, I can, but is that directed at TJ?
No, that's directed at you, Greg.
Okay, here's the thing. We already talked about the movie. We talked about one of the characters, and I bet he couldn't get any of them.
Probably not. Just give me a quick reminder and a refresher.
Okay, Sean Penn is one.
Okay.
One was in Top Gun, and
the other one was in Mask.
Also played in ER, and the other was in Mask. And actually, he was also supposed to play Marty McFly in Back to the Future. And after, I guess, I think he was actually hired to play that role. And after a week or so, they said, no, go in a different direction.
He was also in the movie called Pulp Fiction.
That's right. He was. He was the one where Travolta was getting his drugs from.
Yeah.
You won't get it.
Does that ring any bells, TJ?
No. I was about to say, if it was John Travolta, maybe. And I know Samuel Jackson, but
no.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Stoltz.
Yeah.
Eric Stoltz.
And Anthony Edwards, who was also in ER. ER is probably his.
Oh, well, I think Anthony Edwards' tour de force is probably Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Yeah. See, but I don't think that you're right on that.
Yeah.
But I always think him as Mark Green on ER and as Goose in Maverick.
Did you ever see the movie Revenge of the Nerds, TJ?
No.
That should be one of the next movies you see. Seriously.
Yeah, could be your life story.
I know that's a dig. I haven't seen it, but I know that's not a kind comment. Tony Cheese says here, I'll get Greg on the Clips channel tomorrow or Monday, probably talking calendars earlier in the show. Maybe I'll get more than 33 views like that Phil clip did. By the way, it's the most viewed of all the videos on the Phil calling in, a whopping 33 views. I was about to say, we need to actually I need to start mentioning that there's a clip channel at the beginning of the shows, because I think it's going to do a lot better to have little short clips sometimes in the 3-hour long videos if people want it shorter. Michael T says Funyuns or Munchos.
Doritos.
I can't say I've had any of those, but never been a
Munchos. I'd probably go with.
And you guys missed the Choco Tacos.
Oh yeah, they just said that's going to be not sold anymore at Taco Bell, right?
Yeah, they're going to discontinue those.
I haven't eaten a Choco Taco in probably 2 decades, so I couldn't really tell you.
Grumpy, you like Taco Bell?
You know I don't.
Oh man,
it's like the slime that they scrape out of the bottom of school trash cans and just slap it on one of those little sloppy little rolls, and they say, "Here you go." No.
James S said, Greg, Priest and Maiden are playing in the same night. Maiden at UBS, Priest at the Coliseum. Do you A, go to Maiden, or B, go to Priest, or C, see half of each show, or D, go to neither?
I would say B, go to see Priest, because although I love Iron Maiden, I saw their set list, and I love Iron Maiden up to throughout the 80s. I don't like really anything that they've done after the 80s, and they have a member in their band now that dances and prances so obnoxiously throughout the whole show that it totally takes away from the performance. I saw Iron Maiden a few times in the early 2000s at Nassau Coliseum and at the Meadowlands, and I couldn't get past how the guitarist was dancing and prancing so much. So I'd have to go with Priest, because Priest still puts on a good show.
Do they play all the old favorites, Priest?
Yes, they do. And Priest are smarter. They stick with all the favorites and a smattering, maybe like a few new ones, but Iron Maiden does too much new and not enough old. So
yeah, no.
Give me Priest.
Yep.
And then Paulo C
half and half is never an option.
Paulo C said, sorry, Prato, misspelled your name. Maybe we need Phil Esposito in front of the net. They've got like Anders Lee.
Long time no listen from Paulo.
Paulo, what's up? Tony G is saying here, I don't know what this podcast would do without Josh Bailey on the island.
Oh, don't worry.
We would be happy.
Worry. I'll find some new whipping boy. It won't take long.
Oh man. And James F said, Greg, thoughts on UBS Arena and its surroundings? Have you been to
UBS Arena yet? I do have to go at some point. Yeah, I mean, again, it's like part of me, I was holding out hope that there would be an announcement that the Islanders were going to move out to Suffolk County, or they were going to be smart and shut down Nassau Coliseum for a year or two and totally renovate it, and the Islanders could play someplace else for 1 or 2 years. But they did UBS Arena. I mean, of course, I'm happy that the Islanders stayed on Long Island, but I heard that the traffic is absolutely horrible getting in and out of UBS Arena.
Yep.
Which you think that they have done a little bit of research before they pick that area.
Should have had the infrastructure in place.
Right, exactly. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
Lack of planning.
Yeah.
SA said,
"Oh, does that sound familiar? Lack of planning for the future." Who's that sound like? Lou Lamoriello must have been in charge of those plans.
Oh man, or maybe ownership takes after Lou Lamoriello on that. SA says, "This is my new favorite hockey podcast. I think TJ is cool and Grumpy is funny."
I agree. I'll be honest, this is the only sports podcast that I watch regularly. Seriously. I'm being totally serious when I say it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. We appreciate that for certain. Wade F said, my hero is on Jerusalem Avenue in North Belmore. They're open all year round, but closed on Sunday. Great sandwich spot. God,
yes. Go for again, I recommend the Champ. That's what I recommend if anyone's listening to this that's not familiar with that place. The Champ is the way to go.
I can go for that. A nice sandwich, maybe like some provolone, some pepperoni, some ham on it.
If you are ever on Long Island, TJ, you have to go there. Trust me. And you got, like I said, you got to get the Champ. And also, if you want to try great pizza, go to Pietro's in East Meadow.
Sounds like Greg is getting ready to fall off the wagon.
Say that.
Yeah.
Oh, go to
that's the way he's talking about the Champ.
I am, right? I know.
Oh man,
I do actually sometimes miss eating a good steak or something, but
I don't find myself eating red meat as much anymore. It's more like chicken. I eat a lot more of
fish. I still eat salmon and stuff like that.
Oh man, I love a nice little bit of salmon on a little bit like some egg salmon, some avocado.
Yeah, I agree.
Man, that's good. James F. said, I missed the Blue Lion Bar and Grill for the post-game show there. And yeah, there goes. Jeff S. saying here, Bell Boulevard, my old stomping grounds. But guys, we are here at the end of the show today. Obviously, right? If you've listened to the show, you have to make sure, have to check out Greg's book here, The Oral History or Dynasty, the Oral History of the New York Islanders, 1972 through 1984. You can find that again in the link in the description below. As you could find that and all of his other works where we've got his link tree where you could find everything else that Greg has written. You have to give that a check out. But Greg, what do you want to say before we wrap things up here today?
Well, if you want to check out because I besides doing books, I also write for websites and also magazines. So if you want to check out my latest articles, go to my Twitter page because I post all my links there. That's twitter.com/Greg Prato Writer. And yeah, I'm always putting out books and stuff. I'm working on my next book, which is going to be a 2-volume thing of it's going to be the 100. It's 100 classic rock albums, and I go each album and I talk about each album and analyze it. And I've pretty much for every album, I've spoken to someone that was associated with the album. So we go album by album with that. And yes, Grumpy, there is at least one Led Zeppelin album on there.
I'm sure there's more than one Led Zeppelin album.
Yes. I was going to say that's coming out in like October-ish, November. So if you want to have me back on, we could talk about that. And also the Islanders would have started their season at that point. So we could talk about if Kadri is an Islander or who's with the Islanders or if they suck or if they're good.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
There it is. Absolutely. Grumpy. And is there anything you want to say before we wrap things up?
Yeah, my prediction is TJ will know maybe 3 or 4 of the albums of the 100. Maybe.
Wait, I was going to say, TJ, how about this? If I'm going to come on again between now and whenever I come on again, like October or November, try to listen to a few Van Halen songs and let me know what you think. Seriously, I'm being serious when I say that.
I'll take home a homework assignment. I'll listen to a few songs. I just have to remember what songs they sing. I'm sure I know their songs, but I just don't know what they sing and what they play. Grump. What?
Yeah.
What is it, Grump?
Dude, just pull up Van Halen. That's all you got to do. Just do it. Just do it.
Although you know I do have to say, disclaimer, make sure it's the David Lee Roth material, not the Sammy Hagar material. Yeah, make sure it's the first 5 Van Halen albums.
Yeah.
Van Halen 1 through 1984.
Yeah. They weren't as good. I mean, they had Hagar had a couple of good songs, but mostly for their best stuff, it was early.
It was.
There it is. There it is, Grumpy. You always usually say something before.
Yeah, I just wanted to make fun of you and not being able to know any albums of the top 100 all time. You might get lucky, but I bet you couldn't put the name with the album. It'd be some mix you wouldn't be able to get. But like what I like to say, thank you once again, Greg. And I do want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ, the Grumpy Old Man, and Greg Prato.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you again, Greg, for joining here the show today. I really do appreciate your time, appreciate your insight, appreciate you talking about that Dynasty era and you know what I mean, making sure that you've got a true, accurate representation straight from the horse's mouth of that era from the people who took place in it and were in the room. That's always great to see. No twists, no spins on it. I love to see that and hear it. Thank you again for joining. Thank you, everybody who listened to the show. We will see you guys tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Make sure you give that a look at. It's in the link in the description below. And thank you everybody for listening. Thank you again, Grumpy and Greg.
My pleasure.
Thank you, guys.